Good evening, everybody. I hope you all can hear me. Can you hear me okay? So this is the regular meeting for USD 453, February 12th. And I'll call the order now. We'll call Mrs. Murphy.
Here.
Mrs. Overby.
Here.
Mrs. Price.
Here.
Mrs. Reed.
Here.
Mrs. Wells.
Here.
Mrs. Wilson.
Here.
And I'm Mike.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The mission of Leavenworth Public Schools is to prepare every student for success in every classroom every day.
Okay, scheduled patron input. I'll read it. If you haven't been up here, presenting something we gotta let you know. We're pleased to have you join us tonight to celebrate student and staff achievement, hear informational presentations and reports, and observe consideration of policy decisions and administrative recommendations specific to Leavenworth Unified School District. We set aside time at each regular scheduled board meeting to hear from the public. Comment to address board policies or procedures or administrative staff to carry out the policy as opposed to individual complaints and investigative resolve. Please understand, while board members will listen and carefully consider your comments, board members will not immediately respond to questions either verbally or through gestures. For example, raising hands in response to questions, nor will they engage in dialogue and answer response during patron input during this meeting. This is not appropriate time or place for patrons to make comments of a personal nature about any district employee or student by name. Persons making comments will violate the privacy rights of district employees or students will be asked to terminate the remarks. If speakers have concerns specific to an individual student or staff member, please make an appointment with the superintendent. Those concerns will be documented and shared with the board. Each speaker is reminded that you have 3 minutes to speak and will be given a notice of 15 seconds remaining. If a group is in attendance with the same interest, we ask that a spokesperson be appointed to deliver the group's message. As a unified board committed to desired outcomes for our school community, we ask that comments not be directed at individual board members, but addressed to the board as a whole. Thank you for taking the time to address the school individually. Okay, the first person up, Mr. Waller. Podium.
Good evening, school board members. I came to speak to you tonight in regards to modifying the library policy. I support the changes recommended by Ms. Price, and you should too. I'm a parent of a Leavenworth student, an Army retiree. I have a PhD. I teach for KCKCC, and I'm an editor of Army publications. Recently, some people have tried to make political points by attacking school libraries and curriculums. For example, right now, there is a candidate in Missouri whose campaign ad shows her burning books with a flamethrower. She is clearly attacking books to make political points, not to further education. Leavenworth schools should focus on education, not politics. Education prepares students for the world. The December change to the library policy directed the school library to remove sexually explicit material from the library. Unfortunately, the word sexually explicit can be misconstrued depending on a person's perspective. And thinking that the school district should change the previous media policy is a solution in search of a problem. Some people are trying to make books and libraries a political issue in our schools. Worth noting that the U.S. teen pregnancy rate has been on the decline since 1991, and 2022 was the lowest on record. Schools and education help achieve this. The legal age of sexual consent in Kansas is 16. Indeed, a child can get married in Kansas at 15 if a judge deems it advantageous to the child, right? Married at 16 or 17 with parents' permission, and married at 18 without permission. 15, 16, 17, 18. That's the age of our students, and they need access to information. Wholesale blanket bans of books are ineffective and avoid educating students. Book bans have even caused some school districts in the U.S. to pull the Bible from their libraries. After all, the Bible describes incest, adultery, prostitution, polygamy, and homosexuality. And no one is advocating removing the Bible from the library. Similarly, Shakespeare and classical Greek and Roman plays often include sexual themes. They should not be banned. Students need to learn them for ethics and be competitive in standardized tests and prepare for college courses. Books are banned either for content or ideology. Content should be monitored by the school board, and proposed changes to the policy reflect that. However, the district should not ban books because of ideology. If the school district bans books for ideology, it could open itself to lawsuits based on the First Amendment. The people who decide what is appropriate in our school library should come from Leavenworth. Leavenworth should not allow people from outside our community to decide our library policy. The review committee should decide which books to ban and which books to keep after reading them. The wholesale blanket removal of categories of books should be avoided. The review committee should decide case by case. In closing, I encourage the school board to adopt the changes to the library policy advocated by Ms. Price. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Melissa Collingwood.
Good evening. Thank you guys for your time. I am here to speak on part of the First Amendment gives us the right to freedom of press, the freedom to read what we want, when we want. When we censor books, it not only violates the First Amendment, it never leads anywhere good. History has taught us that banning books is about controlling what information people have access to. It is all about fear, and fear is the opposite of freedom. Policy as written violates USD 453's non-discrimination policy, which reads, "We don't discriminate on the basis of race, color, national origin, gender, age, religion, marital status, gender orientation, veteran status, or handicap status," which I believe will open our district up to a lot of scrutiny, and we already are fighting off a negative image. It would also lead to legal actions taken against our district at that point. When the personal beliefs of the board members get in the way of doing what is best for the students and staff of the district you are elected to represent, then you have failed to the job which you were elected to do. As a board member, you are elected to represent all the students and staff in our district. All of your decisions should be based on what is best for the staff and students and what is the best way to meet their educational needs. I urge you to put aside your personal beliefs and do what is best for all the students you represent. As a parent, we can make choices on what our students should and shouldn't read. We can also have hard conversations if they bring home a book we deem inappropriate or disagree with. It is our right to pass on our beliefs to our children, not the school districts. I feel as a district we have much bigger issues we could spend our time working on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Randy Bond.
Good evening. Here we go again with policy IF. It's crazy to me that this policy even came up to be reviewed and challenged the first time in April or May of 2023. This policy should have been left alone, but some board members put their personal feelings and beliefs over what is best for the students in our district. The changes made in December were narrow-minded and biased. You made changes that alienated and ostracized a protected group of students. My hope for tonight is that you will repeal those changes. Honestly, my hope is that you will go with Mrs. Price's or Mrs. Wells' change proposal. Their proposed changes are inclusive, not exclusive. Their changes, along with current district procedure for collection development, will enhance our school libraries and create opportunities for students to read about things that pique their interest and hopefully ignite a passion for reading. Something else that has been bothering me for the past 3 or 4 board meetings is how some board members have stated that they don't trust the subject matter experts that have been hired by our district. For board members to publicly state that they don't trust teachers to do their job, well, no wonder we can't keep teachers in our district. Who would want to stay in a district with board members who are creating a toxic environment with their negative attitudes or who yell at teachers in a public forum? Teachers have enough problems between dealing with behaviors from out-of-control students, making sure they stay on top of all the benchmark testing, which as a parent I think is too much testing, to sometimes dealing with parents who blame them for every issue their child is having. Even if those comments were aimed at one teacher, you really directed them to the district as a whole. I am appalled at your treatment of our staff. Our teachers are tired. They deserve to be lifted up, not thrown down. To all USD 453 teachers and staff, I see you and I appreciate all your efforts that you make to improve our students' well-being. I want to thank the teachers and staff for coming in every day, especially on the days that you don't want to.
Thank you. Motion to adopt the agenda, number 2. Price, all in favor? 7-0. Item 2, I think the city manager did.
Good evening and thank you. This is the coolest place I've spoken in a long time. Neat setting, I really appreciate you all doing this. So I just have a few updates from the city and certainly any questions that you have about what's going on or you think is relevant. Just wanted to give a couple updates, some fun stuff we're doing in the city and then some of the programs and some of the updates the commission is going to be hearing. So tomorrow night, the city commission will review bids to award for the county's first dedicated pickleball complex. There is a very strong group of pickleballers in Leavenworth and area. We're hoping to maybe hold tournaments here, bring people to Leavenworth. So this is on the side of Cody Park where there's the tennis courts and the racquetball courts now. So the commission has been planning this for a number of years. It's been in our capital budget, and tomorrow night they will look at bids. That also includes a standalone basketball court, an outdoor one. We don't have one of those in the south part of the community, and so there'll be a standalone basketball court and 8 pickleball courts. That's being goes through tomorrow night. Also exciting, in about a week and a half, the commission will see a presentation from staff to expand the skate park out on 20th Street. That park is 20 years old now, and it gets a lot of use. It hasn't been touched in about 20 years. There's a group of kids out there that use that constantly, especially through the summer months, and so we're looking at potentially expanding that. Expansion would be to the east of the existing park and maybe some new features and maybe switch around the ones that are there. You have to give these things an upgrade from time to time where they sort of lose their impact in the community. Staff is working on the replacement for fire station number 3. That's the one lone station that doesn't look like the other two. This is a 2nd Avenue and Limit. It's a station from the 70s. Time is come, and so we're working on that. We're moving the Parks and Recreation offices from the basement of the community center, if you've ever been down there, up to the what would be the south wing of the community center. Sands Construction is doing that project. So we'll have a public-facing community center where you can come in and register, and we're going to have a meeting room, and so you can use that space when you come to register or for classes or for anything at the city. The commission will hear tomorrow night an update of Ride LV. Ride LV is the city's public transit program. We are at about 1,600 rides a month now. It's increased just about every month. That's a $2 app-based, on-demand ride service. That's a micro-transit run-through with partnership with the Guidance Center, the Kansas Department of Transportation, and the Kansas City Area Transit Authority. So tomorrow night will be the first official update, now that we have some data to give the commission about how that's going, and then maybe what are the next steps. It's a 3-year pilot program, so we have some time before we have to assess long-term, but just the first update for the commission. Spring cleanup is April 27th. If the school board would like to put a group together to participate in spring cleanup, we'd certainly be happy to have you. But it's really a great event. There's about 1,100 residents and Boy Scout troops and churches and Girl Scout troops and that come together and adopt a grid for the city and go out and clean up on that day. So it's a really, really neat event. And which dovetails nicely to all the partnerships we have with the district that we're thankful for. The kickoff event is always over at Warren Middle School in the cafeteria. So we certainly thank the district for that. Thank you again for the facilities for sports. My son's at basketball practice at Henry Leavenworth tonight, so the use of your facilities certainly helps our parks and recreation programs. We set a record this year for basketball signups of 339 Leavenworth kids in the basketball program, and wonderful facilities that you allow us to use. Great partnerships are on safety and security. Again, it's appropriate that we're in this building, working with Mr. Kessler and Ms. Sloan and Dr. Adams on law enforcement presence, on traffic. It's never perfect, but we try to do everything we can. We certainly thank the district admin team for all the help that they give us. So those are the end of my prepared remarks. Oh, I did want to mention there's some sidewalk work going on outside on 5th Avenue Park if you drive by the practice soccer fields, and that's a city project. It was supposed to be done this past year, but they're doing it now. So ADA upgrades on the intersections, repairing broken sidewalks throughout 10th Avenue Park. So trying to maintain what we have and make sure that's accessible for walkers and strollers and wheelchairs or whatever it may be. So appreciate your support, and certainly any questions that you all have for me, I'm happy to answer.
Well, you got no boos from the audience.
I know. Nothing else? Thank you all.
Thanks, Mr.
Yep, appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next up, we have recognition, which is always great to have, and tonight we have Madison Finch. Is she here?
Come on down. Somebody's gonna stand here and have a picture after here, there. Okay. So this is a certificate of recognition from the Leavenworth Unified School District. We present Madison Finch with a certificate for recognition for positive representation of Leavenworth High School and selection to participate in the United States Senate Youth Program. Awarded the 12th day of February, 2024 by Mr. Carney and Dr. Adams. What a job. Well done.
Okay, item number 4, the superintendent evaluation tool. Mr. Bowie here, executive director of the United States Military Academy, conducting the rest of the meeting.
Good evening, and thank you for the invitation. Appreciate that, and just a couple of things. Congratulations on this beautiful facility. My first time to be in this facility. It's absolutely wonderful, so congratulations on that to the Leavenworth School Board and all your hard work with us. Wonderful. So I want to come in and help as needed on the evaluation process for Dr. Adams. That's who we are. USA Kansas is we're a membership service that we support our administrators. And I want to say thank you to the board for being willing enough to take part of our pilot program with this new evaluation tool that we put together, which truly is a consensus building process rather than just the old-fashioned fill in a number and really not give anybody feedback type of evaluation. So with that, I want to just say, as we get started with this, there's a couple of steps I really encourage the board to consider, and this is built into the evaluation, and especially the online tool that you guys are participating in, is the superintendent self-evaluation. And giving Dr. Adams an opportunity to start the process and giving that self-evaluation, giving you an opportunity to kind of see how he has identified himself with his strengths and areas that he wants to work on, and that gives you guys a chance to the board to kind of agree, disagree, or identify other areas that you would like him to focus on moving forward. The other thing I'd like to kind of put out there as you look at the evaluation tool is to continue to remind you to really focus on your strategic planning. Those are areas that we really encourage you to try to keep your superintendent focused, and making sure he's providing reports back to you about the strategic plan. Sometimes we see boards that have a strategic plan, it's nice and laid out, and this is the direction we want to go, but we kind of evaluate the superintendent over here on some other areas, and which kind of makes it difficult for our superintendents to really identify where the board would like me to go as an individual. And so I think that's where you guys really come into play. Following that self-evaluation is really helping Dr. Adams figure out what are your goals as you look at your strategic planning, where you want the district to go forward, and really identify where you want him to focus his attention as he moves forward with his work here in the district, as you're evaluating him as far as the work that you would like done to the board. Because after all, this is your district. I like to tell our superintendents and our individual directors sometimes that oftentimes we're visitors to communities to try to get communities move forward. You guys are the owners of the community, and as board members, we want to make sure that we're doing move the direction that you want the board, the community to move, the district to move. So with those couple of ideas, and I think, has everybody had a chance to see the tool or get online? I see a couple of heads shaking. Mrs. Wilson saying no, Mrs. Reed saying no. So there's a couple of different sections that we have in this tool. The first section is really around what we call some basics of the tool, and it's around district leadership metrics. And so the first one's around communication. So we have 3 areas in the area of communication that are just kind of basic. We want the superintendent to provide some artifacts and evidence for you that you can evaluate the work there, engaging in relationships, demonstrating engagement with all stakeholders, providing effective transparency, advocating for educational success, and creating sustainable community engagement. And those are kind of through the area of communication. The area 2 is around leadership. And again, the superintendent, clear vision for the students, responsive culture to learning, ensuring decisions that are ethical and equitable outcomes, and empowering and building capacity of the instructional leadership and drive towards improvement. And then the third area is how they allocate resources to budgets, and establish a thorough understanding of the budget, provide recommendations of the board policies, prioritizing plans, and collecting the data to use as you move forward there. And again, you guys are very fortunate with Dr. Adams, an individual who truly understands the numbers and how those numbers can work. That's probably the simplest part of the evaluation right there. The more where it becomes a little more challenging are the performance metrics where you guys create those goals. And that's where we'd like you to build a consensus of what those goals are between the 7 of you and Dr. Adams, a team of 8, if you will, working together to build those goals and come up with a consensus of where we want to go with those, with the direction. And again, hopefully they're going to be somewhat related to your strategic plan that you've already worked on along that way. And then, and that's really the work that's empowered right there to the board to help move him forward and help guide him through that process. And then once all of those things are kind of identified and set, I know you're kind of working up against a deadline here, but there's nothing, I'll talk about the deadline in just a second. It's more about the process than the deadline. Let me highlight that piece there. Once you've had a chance for Dr. Adams to kind of go through, you've had a chance to put the goals out there. Dr. Adams and Dave haven't had a chance to kind of identify where we're at, where we've gone so far this year. Because I venture to say, you guys are probably not very far off, even though maybe we haven't had a conversation about what you would like him to focus on, but I'm guessing they're going to be pretty close. They do have a chance to kind of go in there and identify where he's at. And you identify that on exceeds expectations, partially meets, or does not demonstrate expectations. And this is where some of the consensus that we want you to build. It would be real easy for 7 individuals, such as yourself, to sit down and identify, well, I think he exceeds, and I think he partially meets expectations, or I think he meets. And then you hand it over to the superintendent's going, I don't know what they mean, because I'm in 4 different areas, and I've got, I don't quite understand where people think I am. What we would encourage you guys to do, and you'll be able to do this on your particular electronic tool, is identify where he's at, and then probably Miss Brenda, is she in here? She is not. She would have access to kind of go in there and identify, are we all in the same place? She's probably kind of the neutral party to this. She'd be able to go in there, are we all kind of in the same place? And then she would be able to come out and say, hey, we all believe Mr. Adams, there's 6 of you that believe Mr. Adams is meeting expectations, and 1 of you believe he exceeds expectations. Can we come together and just come up with one? Or maybe we're in 3 different areas, can we come up with one that we all agree upon? And it gives everybody a chance to go back and review the evidence, maybe talk to each other, and then you come up with that consensus of an evaluation rather than that separation that the board can put out there. And then once you have that kind of identified in each of these areas, you have the consensus, you provide some feedback as far as what are some areas of strengths, if there's a change you have to do that. Again, we want Ms. Brenda to kind of come together and maybe identify the 3 or 4 most important ones, areas of strengths, maybe combine that. Same thing with areas of improvement. These are things we'd like to see some improvement on. Again, trying to build consensus around that. And then the other one is kind of going back to area 1 and 2 with the communications, the budget allocations, and the leadership. Is there anything we need to improve or change or grow in there? And again, trying to build that consensus model where we're similar, we're giving our superintendent feedback that they can work with and kind of move forward, rather than kind of being all over the place, which is somewhat typical to some of the past tools that have been out there. And again, it provides that model that we feel is really, really more effective for the feedback for our superintendent as we look at that. I've thrown a lot at you. Some of you had a chance to look at the tool. Some of you have not had a chance to look at the tool. What are some questions that maybe you have?
How do we start?
And that's exciting. Have you received an email from Super Eval? Okay, so that's the company that has the online tool, and you would just click on that, give your login and password. I believe Bob Hartzell, who is one of the people that manages the organization, is going to jump on with you, Dr. Adams, is that next week? Or do we have set a date yet?
We have not set the date yet, so tonight we can have that conversation. Bob is simply waiting for us to confirm when.
Okay, I believe we're going to run into Bob here in the next couple of days, and we will set a date. But Bob's going to come in and sit down. He'll Zoom in with you. He's in New York. He'll Zoom in with you and help you walk you through the electronic process.
Okay.
But
Will this need to be done in executive session, or will this be an open session, or?
be done wherever you want. Where you select the finalized goals does not have to be done in executive session. If there's any conversation about them, I would prefer that happen in executive session. But come out, and when you build that consensus, it could be done in open session. But at the same time, a lot of this work can be done on your own, at your own leisure, on your computer. You build it in there, and then you allow, what I recommend is to kind of go through there and identify where are we together, where are we different, and then how can we build that consensus out of, building that consensus would be done in executive session. Good question, thank you. This is the one thing I will tell you, this is probably not when you have trouble calling your own IT department, you would call Super Eval, and Bob or Mike would be the ones that would help you with that. And I would loosely say that I can help you with that. I've been into it for a grand total of about 2 hours, so I'm about 2 hours after you.
Any questions?
Is there a suspense that they're supposed to be shooting for? As far as the date, as far as.
Okay, so here is there's the statutory information on that. Evaluations in the first 2 years of any new employee is within the first 60 days of the semester, by the end of the first 60 days of the semester. Employees in their third or fourth year are one evaluation within the first 45 days of the second semester. So the thing about that is, we would encourage you to get it done within those 60 days, but there's nothing magical unless you're going to court or unless there's some other type of lawsuit or other things out there that could get in the way of not having that evaluation completed by the first 60 days of each semester.
Each semester.
Yeah, of each semester. So I would encourage you to get it done as quickly as possible, but at the same time, making sure it's thorough and not rushed to the point that it's not effective. Because again, with the evaluation that you do right now, when you're setting those goals and you're identifying the strengths and areas of improvement, are going to last all the way through the summer and into next fall. So I would encourage you to take the time to do your due diligence there, so you're providing good feedback as Dr. Adams moves forward.
Mr. Carney, my understanding was that you and Dr. Adams decided on this tool.
Pardon me?
You and Dr. Adams collectively decided. Is there any money involved?
I don't know. Is there a cost for this?
Yes, in round numbers, 1,200 annually.
Yeah.
I believe this year we are getting 15%, about 600 this fiscal year.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I think $1,200, $1,200 and change.
How does that compare to what we normally use for evaluations? How does that compare to what we normally spend for evaluations?
We normally,
Like last year, how much money did we put out into the evaluation process?
well, we didn't have anybody help. This is a whole new system.
Okay.
The one we did last year, in my humble opinion, was worthless. And so we tried to get into a new era of evaluation. This should help, I believe, based on what I saw. It was kind of frustrating toward the end, but I just think it's money well spent, personally.
So when a decision is made to change a tool that the board's using, we don't need consensus or anything, it's just like a president level decision?
Yeah. What do you want to go to? Do you want to vote on it?
No, I was just wondering, I'm still learning, so I wasn't familiar with how we're.
Well, all we learned is this, that's the whole point. And hopefully benefit more in the future, but I think it's simplified, so.
So if I can answer these three, in many cases, boards will come to us and say, do you have a tool that we could use? Because they don't have their own tool.
Yeah.
And so superintendent will bring forward a tool and they utilize that tool. So I couldn't tell you as far as district to district, how many vote on the tool they use for the superintendent and how many of them just are happy there's a tool available.
Yeah.
And so, and on the pricing you're actually paying for is to utilize the electronic version rather than just the paper and pencil version. Which the advantage of the online tool is to storing the artifacts that the superintendent would bring into this, or as you guys are sharing back and forth, the sharing would be a little easier back and forth with information.
Thank you.
I have a question, if I may. You said this is your all's pilot program.
Correct.
How many school districts in Kansas are using this?
We have 51 school districts, I believe, is the final number that are piloting the program this year. Yeah, we feel like it is. And again, this was a tool that was developed through superintendent. We had superintendent meetings, we had school board members meeting and giving us their ideas and feedback, and then through USA, Kansas State University, and the school organization, we kind of compiled their work and put it together in a tool that we felt like that they wanted.
So of the 51 school districts that are using this tool, how many of them have already completed the process and turned it in and given their opinion on how they felt the tool worked for them?
We had some really good feedback from first semester as far as the way the tool worked, the consensus building and what that meant to some of the meetings. It brought a little more meaning to what happened was people were evaluating the superintendent maybe low because I didn't see something that occurred, say communications. Well, I never saw the superintendent say that or do that. When they came together and they said, well, it was in, the superintendent submitted the artifacts and the board was able to share, well, it was here, this is where that was said, it was here, this was said, here's where the information was. And so it was able to build some views from people that they didn't have a chance to see. So they felt really good about it.
So how many of the 51 school districts did that in the first semester? All 51? Or you had 20 or 10?
I couldn't tell you how many.
Because I'm trying to track the process of the pilot program here today with 51. How many actually did it in the first semester?
I couldn't tell you how many completed in the first semester. We're doing it based upon the whole year. We've just had meetings over the course of the year.
Do you have an area where we can read their review on this program?
No, not at this time. Everything we've done via Zoom, and people can jump on that way.
Right, but there's no written reviews or
No, we
district
haven't.
talking about.
No, not that I know of.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Building report. I think we're gonna be reporting on this building, are we? Oh, there it is. Kessler, what do you have for us?
All right, well, hopefully some stuff you're going to enjoy. So, good evening, welcome board members and members of our community and staff to the Richard Warren Educational Campus. It houses our Leavenworth Intermediate School, which is 5th grade and 6th grade, and our middle school, Richard Warren Middle School, which is 7th and 8th grade. Our motto here is ensuring high levels of learning for all. I thought I'd start by just mentioning our administrative team, which is doing an awesome job. Obviously, I'm Scott Kessler, the campus principal over the whole campus and the principal at the Intermediate Center, or the Intermediate building here. Ben Mellick, who's here with us tonight, one of our assistant principals on the intermediate side, and Michelle Smalls is our other assistant principal on the intermediate school side. At Richard Warren Middle School, Laura Batson, who is our director of teaching and learning, is filling in as principal at Richard Warren Middle School, and I do want to thank Laura for stepping into that role. It's been invaluable having her here on our campus to help us put some things in place. Barbara Hermosillo is our assistant principal at the middle school, as well as Kelsey Steinmates, who is our assistant principal and our athletic director. I just wanted to start off, and I'm going to kind of go over some a description of each building with you and go over some numbers, just to kind of start to paint the picture of what our campus looks like right now. So on the intermediate school side, we have 8 gen ed teachers per grade level. We actually are supposed to have 10 per grade level, or we're allotted 10 per grade level. Right now we have 4 that are unfilled. We are departmentalized, so one teacher will teach ELA and social studies, and the other teacher in the team will teach math and science. And so that both in 5th and 6th grade, the students do rotate once they transition during the day. So besides going to specials, this allows the teachers to actually focus on a couple different content areas, and actually allows them to dive deeper into the material than they would if they had the lesson plan and dive into each subject. Our numbers in 5th and 6th grade. Right now in 5th grade, we have 205 students. The average class size is 26. In 6th grade, we have 236 students. Our average class size is 30. So just to put that in perspective, the average class sizes, if we were fully staffed, in 5th grade would go down to about 21 students, 21, and in 6th grade, it would actually go down to about 23, 24 students. So as you can see, just being short 2 teachers per grade level makes a big difference for our class sizes. We have an awesome specials team. We have art, music, PE, and STEM. And I will tell you that the specials team, along with our awesome gen ed teachers, when the specials are not in rotation, they do go support other gen ed teachers or wherever we need them in the building. So they've been very helpful this year. If we have, like we have on occasion, and I'll talk a little more about it on our building tour, when we've had to combine classes, if we're short subs, we send another staff member up there to help out, because you'll have one teacher up there, if you can imagine, sometimes with a large group of students. You start with 30 and you start adding more students. It's a lot of kids per teacher. Our teachers do an amazing job, and then our specialist teachers are always open, asking, where do you need me today? I have some extra time, or on my open space, they're filling in, helping out where support is needed. Some other things I want to mention that we offer on the intermediate school side, we have JROTC, and we have some after-school clubs. So this past fall, we had board game club, Pioneer Salon, Jewelry Club, Basketball Club, and Beginning Band. And then this spring, we have Board Game Club, Beginning Band, and Girl Talk. So we have a lot of things to offer, a lot of positive things we're doing for our students. On Richard Warren Middle School side, we have 16 core teachers and 11 elective teachers. So right now, as you can see on the screen, out of the 16 core teachers, one of them is a long-term sub. Out of the 11 elective teachers, 2 are long-term subs, and we actually have 1 unfilled. Why I think that's important to mention is that means we technically have, even if you include the long-term sub positions, we have 4 teaching positions unfilled. And when I get later to talk about some of our challenges or areas that we need to really focus on recruiting and retention, I think it's important to just show, those are just the teachers, and I'm not even mentioning like the support staff that we have openings for. 7th and 8th grade. So 7th grade, we have 213 students. In 8th grade, we have 234 students. The average class size for core classes, that's like math, science, ELA, social studies, is 19, but they range from 11 to 26. Remember, it's middle school, so we have to figure out their schedule, and sometimes we have to put schedules together, so you might have a bigger class 1 hour than the last. In 8th grade, in our elective classes, our average is 19. They range from 10 to 40. I'll tell you, like 40 is in our JROTC class. Those 2 morning classes, it's first and second hour. They're large because first sergeant comes down to teach those first 2 hours of the day. Then they have to go back up to the high school. But I also want to point out that just this semester, second semester, we were able to find our second long-term sub. So that ties into some electives classes. So the electives classes were actually, the average was much higher the first semester. In fact, just to give you an idea, in a couple of our electives classes, like public speaking and intro to theater, which we were able to add back into the schedule this semester, those class sizes range from 17 to 23. So if you can imagine, without that long-term sub, we'd have 23 students, then we have to figure out where to place that hour, and that's why the other electives classes were larger in size. Electives, we have JROTC, art, facts, band, choir, business classes, public speaking, intro to theater, multimedia, STEM, civics, and admin. We've done after-school tutoring at the middle school, and obviously athletics. We have a variety of sports teams that students can try out for, and some great coaches leading up, some great teams, and some great athletes we have. Next, I want to talk about our focus. And our focus is on our students, every student, every day. And I wanted to show a few pictures here, but this does not even paint the entire picture that you would see on a daily basis. So in the upper left-hand corner, we do things like class of the month here on the intermediate side. The staff, and that includes all staff, support staff, gets a vote, and we explain to the students, we see everything you do, whether you're in specials, morning assembly, wherever. In the middle bottom picture, you can see our pioneers of the month. And so what we do is each month we have new pioneers of the month. We also have morning assembly, we do character certificates. And so as you can see, we really focus on the positive. So on the bottom right-hand corner, as you can see, we focus on 5 character traits: being prepared, respectful, having integrity, being disciplined, and being engaged. So those are 5 things we focus on, not just on the intermediate side, but that's our entire campus. Some other things I want to point out, in the bottom left, you'll see some students working together on art projects. In the top right, a student working in a science class in the middle school side. We do a lot of hands-on learning. And 2 other things, I'm very proud of our students and staff, but especially our students. As you can see, the 2 girls behind the cart, they actually are part of our student leaders, delivering treats for teachers that day. And then, for those of you that were in attendance, probably learned at our Veterans Day Assembly this past fall, that was all put together by our students. And so these, as you can see, we really are changing the story here, or striving to change our story and focus on the positive, because there are a lot of positive things. We have a lot of great students, great families on our campus. And our students, it's amazing the things that they're doing, and the teachers are doing an amazing job just facilitating their ideas and facilitating their leadership roles. We're guiding them, but they're the ones coming up with some of the ideas that we do around campus, and they're putting them into play. And so that's awesome to see. Some other things I just want to mention, some positives. As you heard earlier today, working with the Leavenworth Police Department and the city of Leavenworth has been great. Whether we've had issues, with security, we wanted to increase their presence on campus. I would tell you, working with them, the Leavenworth Police Department, because I get calls sometimes, they're like, what happened? The police department's up at your school. We have an open invitation, and when they're on patrol, we just tell them, hey, when you want to stop by our campus and walk either side, just do it. So they come in, a lot of times it's just a proactive way to get involved, to say hi to our kids. Another thing I want to mention is our PI organization is like our PTO. It's called Partners in Education, and I hope they don't mind me name dropping them, but like Melissa Hollingsworth and Cassidy Williams are just a couple of the parents involved with PI. If you ever go to the middle school side and you see the parents greeting students in the morning, that's a result of them putting that out there in the community, saying, hey, we want to start the day off on a positive note for our students. And you'll also see PI running concessions along with our Stuco. And Kylene Campbell helps to get our Stuco leaders on the middle school side running the concessions, but PI is involved in that too. So it's really a team effort. A couple other things I want to mention, our site council, we meet monthly. We have site council and PI meetings on the same night, and it's great to see, we get the parents involved and some staff members involved, not just sharing information, but actually doing what a site council does, talking about action steps, what's actionable, getting feedback. In a minute here, you'll hear me talk about how we went through the needs assessment with our BLT and our site council. I want to send a shout out to Cassie Calloway, who's one of our food service managers. They've been very flexible. Like I know when we've had to tweak, especially the middle school side or lunch schedule, that she's been very open. Hey, we'll work with you. What do you need? And then I think this is the first time I've ever seen them sit down. But Jason Ray, our lead custodian, for both buildings. Tonight when you walk through, or anytime you walk through campus, I'm not joking either. I think that's the first time I've seen him sit down all day. His staff is doing an amazing job. And then obviously our teachers are doing an amazing job. I know that I'm just going to mention a couple. I probably could read off the whole list, but Don Terrain and Ben Hutchcraft are Teachers of the Year. They lead the way. They're doing work outside the school day, but so are a lot of our other teachers. As I mentioned, all those extra tutoring programs, clubs and activities after school, coaches, those are all staff going above and beyond, working outside their duty day. And the reason I mention all that too is just so you know, I'm very proud of our campus. We have a lot of positive things going on that I want to make sure I share and show that it really is a community effort. That being said, there's always room for improvement, right? And we recognize that. Here's some areas of improvement or sustainment that we're looking at. Obviously, the first one is staffing. Again, I mention that because we talk about it as a staff. We talk about it, how do we manage certain things with less staff? And it really does, it's less. If you're missing one person, that's an extra person that could be with kids, could have eyes on those kids. So we're working through that. Student attendance, my staff has come up with some great ideas that we put into place. I'll just give you one example. Well, on both sides, we do like attendance contests, like on the intermediate side, the class with the best attendance. For the month, it's like ice cream sandwiches or some reward at the end of that day. We're focusing on positive behavior incentives. A lot of times, especially in the community, I live in the community, I'll be at Walmart or Dillon's, or some parent might ask me, hey, we heard you had a rough day. Yeah, did you see all the great things we did today? Or did you know all the great things we're doing? And you come up to a basketball game or a volleyball game and see our great athletes playing. But we're focusing on those positive behavior incentives and changing that culture. So we actually focus on those kids. Sometimes those kids sit there like, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. We want to reward those students and make sure that we are recognizing them. Academics, are the academics where we want them? Obviously not. We're always looking to improve our academics. We review our data and our test scores, which leads me to the needs assessment. Right now, we're going through our needs assessment. And I've been through that with my administrative team, with my building leadership team, and then just last month, we did that with our site council. We actually had one of our longest site council meetings in a while. Great conversations, great questions, looking over test scores, looking over data, and so I was getting all that feedback on how can we improve our building and how can we improve the culture of our building, and one of those things is academics. How do we improve our academics? And so a lot of great discussion around that. So speaking of great things, I did want to mention, I'm going to put a plug in here for our Warren Campus Family Engagement Night coming up February 20th. So a lot of times, we don't always get to do this, but I think it was a great opportunity, and the high school's been great with work with us. They usually come down and they put on like a CTE, a Career Technical Education Career Fair. So what we're doing is tying in our Family Engagement Night to that. So the middle school is going to highlight that night our CTE and our electives courses, and then the intermediate school side, we're going to showcase our specialist classes. And so there'll be free meals for families that come in. They can rotate on one or both sides, and students can check out the specialist classes or the CTE and electives classes, especially the younger students coming up. During that day, the reason we're tying it in is the CTE courses from the high school come down, put on displays, and our 8th graders get to go through that process. Before I start our tour, does anybody have any questions before we go on a short tour?
Other than staffing, what do you need from the board to help you be successful here?
You know, that's a great question, and I can honestly say, I think just continued support. I know that when, I think just helping spread the positive news, the positive things that our students are doing around the campus, whether it's on the 5-6 side or the 7-8 side. Just being in the community myself and seeing social media, I know a lot of times, if there is a negative event, that gets out in front of everything. But we've really focused, and I hope people see that on our social media side. I've stressed that to our staff. Post the great things our students are doing. I think we've been posting like the Pioneers of the Month. You should see some of the great things they're doing in civics class on the 7-8 side. And we're really trying to highlight that. So I'd say that the biggest thing to support us is just spreading that news in the community. And so when you hear people talk about Richard Warren Educational Campus, focus on all the positive things that our students are doing, because we have some great students coming up through our campus that are going to do amazing things.
We're going to take a tour, and you're going to be done with the presentation.
Yes.
You're going to be open for any more questions later.
I can be open to more questions after the tour if you like. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm ready to give the tour if we are. Okay.
For the board members and community members that would like to join, it's open for anyone.
You haven't been to the building, we're in the parade.
Did anyone have any questions after the building tour?
Do you have, like, any needs to fill out and address by the district? Do you have anything you guys are thankful for? Anything to think about?
I think this goes back to, I think if I had to choose one thing we need to focus on, it's recruiting teachers. And so I'd say that's the number one priority. that I hope we continue to focus on. And I think our Human Resources Department and Dr. Adams and everybody involved, we're working on that. But I know from talking to other colleagues in other districts, the number of applications are already down. There's not as many teachers coming out of the programs. And so I think that's one of my, obviously from the numbers I showed you, I think focusing on recruiting teachers and staff overall, even like paras, the classified staff too. Anything we can do to recruit staff and retain staff, I think it should be a top priority.
Great. And how do you feel about supporting with proposal? Do you have any opinions on that building?
Yeah, I am glad we're looking at it, and here's why. I always say this to my colleagues. If anybody else has any other solutions, I'd be happy to listen to them. I think we should investigate them. And so with the 4-day school week, I think it's definitely worth investigating. I mean, right now, I'm on the committee and we're investigating that. And we have some great ideas. I know my staff, at least on the Warren campus, the staff survey that we've done, they're for it. Are there still a lot of questions about it? Absolutely. That's part of the committee and part of the process we're going through now. I know the next part of the committee is to send out a parent survey. And so I think it's, we need to get that feedback. And so I think it's definitely something we need to look at. I know that there's pros and cons to a 4-day school week. Definitely, we think about, the positives and the negatives of it. But I do think it is definitely something. I'll give you an example. I was talking to a gentleman this morning, and he is from another organization that goes around to campus colleges and they do mock interviews. And at their usual event, they usually have like 100 candidates. He said, I'm sure they had 18. And he goes, guess what their first question was? Do you have a 4 or 5 days work week? And so, I think it's something definitely that we should consider, which we are putting together a presentation for the board. And I'm glad we're doing it. But, it goes back to recruiting and retaining teachers. If anybody has any other ideas, I'm all for it. Let's get them out on the table and let's investigate it. It seems to be a topic right now that we have candidates, obviously, that when I talk to colleagues, and then even current staff that are interested in it. And so if we have current staff interested in it, possible candidates that are interested in it. Some arguments some people would say is, well, if everybody goes to it, then, what's the advantage? But I would not want to be the last ones out of the gate with this one, because I think if you put it into place and it did work, well, then you're going to build your staff and hopefully retain your staff by putting other things in place and, having a positive culture and other things we're working on. But I definitely am glad we're investigating it and we have a committee looking into it.
I've had some staff members even come to my home to express concerns, disapproval of it, and then some from your campus. And so have you met like one-on-one with teachers to try and make sure? Because some have told me like, I'm leaving if you guys do this. It's like,
I haven't met one-on-one with all of them.
Okay.
I will tell you, I've had more staff on the intermediate side say they're for it than on the middle school side. And I think the important thing to say is, the board would have the final say.
Yeah.
And I think what I've been telling staff, and I haven't had a chance, like I said, to meet with individuals. I've met with my building leadership team. We sent out a staff survey. Like I tell them, nothing's written in stone. I think there's a misperception out there that it's a definite, that this is a go. That's part of what we're doing right now, even with our administrative team, is collecting all the data and information, everyone's opinions, everyone's advice, all their concerns. And that's something we're continuing to actually analyze to see, okay, is this going to work? If it's not going to retain staff, then obviously we wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But if we get a large majority that said, hey, I want the 4-day work week or school week. I had one teacher tell me, for example, that was, I've had teachers, I have spoken to a couple of teachers that are like, Mr. Kessler, I'm not sure I like that idea. But then I had like one teacher, a lot of it has to do with what does Mondays look like.
Yeah.
That's a big concern, is not just for, our staff, but the community. I will tell you a couple of teachers, their first thing is, hey, what about the kids? What do they do on Mondays? Obviously, you have great teachers when they first think about the kids.
Sure.
I had one teacher tell me though, Mr. Kessler, I think you'll get a better 4 days out of me if I know I have like that Monday to plan and do stuff. It's gonna, like, you're gonna get a better 4 days out of me than those 5 days you currently get. You know, and that's just one teacher telling me that. So I've heard positives and negatives about it.
I think that would be my next question for you is academically, you know, like you mentioned, our numbers currently, we're not proud of them. And so, you know, do you think this will further hurt our academic scores? What do you?
I think there's multiple ways to look at it. When I see a sixth grade teacher with 50 or 60 kids because we can't find substitutes, I can tell you that doesn't help our test scores either. So I guess I look at it from multiple angles is what we're doing right now working? And it's not because the teachers are not trying, it's because right now, I can say on our intermediate side especially, we're overloaded with, you know, 30 kids in the class. When I tell you, you know, we had 2 more teachers, we'd be down to like 23 or 24. That's what I think about as an admin and also a parent in this district. You know, I have a son who will be coming through our campus here in just a couple of years. And I have 4 kids in the district. So as a parent, I also put on my parent lens to think about, okay, and I have them at the high school, I have them at the middle school, and I have them at the elementary level. So I think even as a parent, even though I'm on the committee, I think, okay, as a parent, what am I going to do with my own kids on a Monday? How will that look? So yeah, it's something that I think we need to continue to talk about and analyze, which we're doing. I know we're doing it at a fast pace. There's a lot of opinions out there. And I think the next step is one of the most important things we're getting ready to do is survey our parents and find out what they think about it. But again, I'm on the campus too, you know, like I said, when I see one teacher with 50 or 60 kids and I send up support, but when you see the large class sizes like I do on our campus, whether it's a 4-day school week or not, something has to change. We have to do something to recruit and retain teachers so I can get those class sizes down, because one of my biggest philosophies is this, that I believe in smaller class sizes. And you can't have smaller class sizes if you can't find teachers. And so I think that's one of, like, it goes back to one of my top priorities.
So even in previous years, you know, I've been contacted by people saying, I'm leaving because of behaviors. And so I heard you talk some about what you're doing, and I appreciate that. So do you believe that like our percentage of behavior incidences is up or down compared to like last school year?
So they just came back to the district.
Yeah.
Looking at the numbers, I would say they're about the same or higher. I would say we have a high incident of behaviors. We get a lot of office referrals on the intermediate and the middle school side. I hear from teachers too.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, Mr. Kessler, one of the things I don't like are the behaviors. I think that's why we're doing a lot of smart things in our district. You know, we have a behavior committee too. And so I think everything works as a system. And so I could give you 4-day school days, but if I'm not working on the behaviors, which we are,
Yeah.
well, then you're not going to like those 4 days if you still have a lot of behaviors. So we're actually attacking this from multiple angles, where we have a behavior committee within our campus. I know I'm constantly working with our RBTs, our behavior specialists, or they're working with my staff. We're working with our school psychs, we're working with admin, we're working with teachers, my building leadership team. We talk about the behaviors. We look at ways that we can reduce it. And so we're looking at several different things. Is it overwhelming for staff and admin? Yeah, absolutely. But that's why I think it's a combination of things, and that's why we're looking at it from different angles. We're looking at the behaviors. How can we reduce the behaviors? At the same time, when we talk about students, you know, sometimes we're the only advocate that child's going to have who has those behaviors. So part of what we're looking at is, you know, I can send a kid home for 5 days. Guess what? They're coming back to us in 5 days. What are we doing to help that child, and how we work to change that behavior? At the same time, I know what that teacher's been going through. You know, and maybe that behavior deserves a consequence. So each situation is different, and sometimes, you know, we just do make the best decision we can. But one thing I know we are working on, in addition to when we think about recruiting and retaining teachers, one thing I talked about to my admin team is, are we being consistent with the way we handle behaviors? Are we doing everything we can for those individual students? Because like I said, how are we fixing it, or how are we helping them to turn their behavior around? And also, we try to, you know, we're calling parents. We try to get those parents involved as much as possible. Sometimes that doesn't always work out, but we're trying to get the parents involved as much as possible. Hey, this is what we're seeing, this is what we're doing on our end. And we have some great parents that are helping us out. They're doing multiple things outside of school. So it just takes a team to help those students. So back to your question, some teachers have mentioned the behaviors as a reason, and we're trying to work on that.
Thanks so much. So a question with the behaviors, if we have the behaviors on a 5-day week, do we really think that having them home 1 day a week is going to help their behaviors the other 4 days when they're back in? Because I remember during COVID, that was one of the things everybody talked about. Kids were put on computers and boxes in their homes. They lost touch with a lot of kids. I can't remember the exact number, but I'm pretty sure it was in 3 digits. And then trying to transition back in and still losing a lot of the facial cues and everything else is part of what cascaded into all these behavioral issues now. If we're separating them from having that consistency and then only having consistency 4 days a week, do we really think that's going to help the behaviors?
I think they're two separate things in a way, and I'll explain. I don't think anybody's saying the 4-day school week is going to solve the behaviors. We've been very transparent on the committee. The 4-day school week, we're trying to do 2 things, but the main thing is recruit and retain staff. And then the other thing is we're trying to work it out to where we actually increase instructional time on those days we do have it. Now that being said, we talk about consistency. When I have to go from 30 in a class combined to 50, I guess what I'm saying is some of the things I do believe you bring up some valid concerns. I guess my concern is I'm already seeing the inconsistency with the staffing levels we have. And so I guess that's what the 4-day school week would be is, can we solve our staffing issue? The goal of the behavior committee and each individual building principal and admin team and staff should be how do we handle the behaviors on those 4 days? Does that make sense? So I think you bring up a very valid concern. I see the inconsistency now with our staffing levels.
Right, so part of my other thing, is it really that they have the need to have a 4-day week, or do they just need a higher pay increase? Is it, incentivizing one way versus another way, or is this just a way to not pay a higher wage? Well, we're going to still pay you this, but you're only going to be working this. I don't know what all the conversations are because we weren't being party to any of those.
So Ms. Murphy, just to kind of, which was going to be my talking point of the superintendent note, it is our intent, as we've always said, the committee that I chair is going to be sharing to the board in March, the March 4th board meeting, all of our findings. And then it'll be at your discretion as to whether or not you want us to continue to proceed or to stop. We've surveyed our employees, they were in favor of it overall. So then that told us, okay, let's go to the next level, let's survey our parents and our school community. And so that will be coming out here next week on the February 22nd. We don't have all the answers. What we do know is some neighboring, not too far to the south of us, Independence, large school district in Independence, Missouri, they had a 450% increase in applications as soon as they went to a 4-day school week. So we've heard a lot of, we are constantly researching, all of us, everybody on the team, our admin, we've tasked them with researching what a Monday would look like. And so we hope to bring to you at our presentation, maybe a template of what a Monday would look like. Our goal is, though, when we survey our parents, we want to make sure that they understand what a Monday would also look like. But to your point with regards to behaviors and things like that, we've seen pros and cons. We've seen people say Independence has seen an increase in attendance. They've seen a reduction. If you look at their study, they've seen a reduction of behaviors. So it's all over the board.
Well, and that would lead me into what our decision was with Earl Lawson Early Childhood Center. We put them on an all-year-long schedule because that was going to be the new great thing, and it was going to be better outcomes and everything else. And then here we are, within the last month or so, we voted to put them on the same schedule as the rest of the school rather than move our district to everybody going to So it was try the great new thing, and the great new thing
The
wasn't
four-day-
really as
right.
accepted as most people thought it would be.
And everything goes in cycles, as we all know.
Right, so I
But I will
guess,
tell you, the 4-day school week's been around for a very long time.
how do they do it at St. Mary's?
Well, it's been around for a very long time across the nation. It is coming to this area. We can either, as Mr. Kessler said, we can be first in the Northeast Kansas, which would allow us to really increase our applicants, because I do believe it is coming, especially when you have college applicants asking for it. What I can commit to you is we would not come to the board with a recommendation of a 4-day school week if we can guarantee that we're going to have the same student contact hours or more. We will not come to you. I couldn't do it in good faith, come to you and say, let's do this with less hours with our kids.
Right.
So it's going to be at a cost that we're going to have to extend the instructional day and extend the amount of contact hours.
Right.
So in the long run, our hope would be to gain instruction time.
Sorry,
Because our best educator are our teachers, our qualified teachers. We want our teachers in front of our kids, and that has been our whole purpose of this, is to recruit and retain our current staff. But in order to make it effective and to work, we would have to increase our instruction time. Otherwise, it wouldn't be successful.
So are you modeling specifically the details of the independent system?
No,
Okay.
no, not at all. Not at all, that we're used for the presentation. I don't know what presentation you're talking about.
I had some educators tell me they were presented, and it had another school district
Actually,
on the slide,
So there
and then
was-
it just changed. I just, I'm just relaying.
we haven't prepared a slideshow, but what we did prepare, I prepared
Or
personally.
Dennis show somebody else's slides from another district.
I prepared personally a Google sheet, Google Doc that had all over the nation information, just all the research I could find, so that way you can take upon yourself to look through it and for the committee. So I don't know if that's what you're referencing. There has not been a slideshow prepared by the district.
So how do we help the communication, because you say we're going to sit here and survey the parents? How do we,
Wait a minute. Let's get, this was for his presentation about the schools. We can talk about that another time to talk about. This is not the time to talk about it. Do you have anything else to say about it?
No, does anybody else have any questions about Richard Warren campus?
Thank you so much for the tour. It was great.
You're welcome.
It's always so fantastic.
Thank you. And hey, you guys are always welcome anytime to come on up, and I'd love to show you around the school.
Thank you.
Keep faith.
And slide.
And yeah, you gotta come back and do
Lights
that.
in town.
Yes, that's right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6, consent agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Dove, second by Mrs. Price to approve consent agenda. All in favor? So, you? Okay. Matt, are you ready to? Get some money?
I am ready. Good evening. Tonight I'm bringing a request to purchase a special education van. This would be a T Transit Ford T350 all-wheel drive vehicle. It'd be XLT class. So it would provide a four-wheel drive vehicle, or all-wheel drive vehicle for transporting special education students to and from their programs that are located out in 20. In 21, we purchased the van, seen an increase in travel, so we're sitting around 79,000 miles on that van. To have that ability to cycle those vans and spread the mileage out, and also have the ability to do service and maintenance without taking away a vehicle that's increased in its need. So that is the request tonight to the board. This would be a special education purchase.
So instead of replacing, we're adding to it to reduce the mileage of the current one.
That's correct.
Did we seek bids for this?
We are using the state contract through Shawnee Mission Board, which we've done several times in the past.
Right, I just had several constituents approach me wanting to know why we weren't doing it locally, seeing since we had a Ford dealership right here that's very supportive of our district.
Absolutely. Some of the challenges that I've had working with dealerships is the lack of a fleet manager to do pricing as a fleet versus an individual. When I send out bids, there is a delay in what is available or what can be built. Buying through a state program allows me to essentially order what I want, and then we get it within about a 6-month time frame.
Thank you, that should explain it too. I appreciate it.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of the 2024 Ford Transit 350 from Shawnee Mission Ford under the state contract in the amount of $64,844.
Second.
A motion by Mrs. Wells, second by Mr. Murphy, to put the rest of the van, right?
Correct.
Purchase of the van, all in favor? 7-0.
Thank you. The next item I have tonight is a vehicle, and I'll just say this, both of these are part of my annual capital outlay. I hold money for the 28 vehicles that we have. Mr. Stoker assists me with trying to cycle these things through. The second vehicle is a F-550. We currently have a 2012 F-550 gasoline powered. This provides our plowing services, one of our vehicles that provides plowing and salt applications. Over the years, it's taken a toll on the gasoline engine, so we are trying to move our fleet to a diesel engine system. This again would be an XLT. This is a cabin chassis. So the difference here, in full transparency to the board, the request is for the purchase price from Shawnee Mission Ford. This is a 4x4, and we anticipate additional costs to outfit this vehicle. So I have included that in the amount. So that is, what do we estimate, about $25,000 in additional upgrades. So we would be asking to purchase a cabin chassis. So that is just base, the cab and then the body. And then we will order a secondary piece, the flatbed that will hold the spreader. And then eventually we will have some additional pieces that will add on to that for the salt spreader.
I got a concern, and I know you like to go Purple Wave, but I was thinking about this morning. Why don't we take these construction type vehicles, why don't we offer those on a bid to local contractors that pay taxes on the community, instead of putting them out there, somebody gets them a real good deal. See what that might bring. Maybe have to be interested, there may be somebody who has a good mechanic or whatever, can make something out of it. Like I say, I think about the taxpayer first before I think about putting them out there for the whole world.
So I'll say first, it's the discretion of you, the board, to decide how we dispose of our excess materials. In the past, it's been really left up to our department to determine that. We have had garage sales in the past. We have sold vehicles in the past open to the community. Purple Wave has produced probably some of the better responses from us. If that is something the board would like us to try, we will have some time to
I'm
move
just
forward.
saying, just with construction, I know the yard sale didn't do well. They never do, they do well. Okay, well, but I just think it would be nice for the community to know that we're trying to think of what's happening. If they're in it, they may not have any. At least give them the first option, if they want to go Purple Wave. To give somebody first option, that's a bona fide contractor to bid on that. So that's a nice truck, not for us, maybe for our purposes, but somebody might be able to use it in the community. Might fill some potholes with it.
Well, it's my understanding that anyone is able to sign up and have a Purple Wave account, and anybody can purchase it.
I realize that, but I'm talking about first come. First come should come to the taxpayer, not in my mind, that's my thought. And then, we don't need to get a motion on that. It's just too close to it.
You said you're wanting to transition to diesel,
Yeah, most of our heavy duty trucks are moving to diesel.
moving to diesel.
Yes.
What are the pros on moving them to diesel versus gasoline?
more horsepower for the engine displacement, longer life. So they run typically twice, I would say about twice as long. Mr. Bergen's here. Bergen from Autotech, if I'm saying something incorrect, but our diesel engines will run longer, provide more power.
And that longer running will offset the expense of what diesel is versus gasoline.
At times, diesel has been right with gasoline more recently, so.
Yeah, I
previous
know,
year
it's
concern,
volatile.
Yeah, I believe, for what we use it for, we'll get much more life out of it.
When is the anticipated, like, if this were approved and it were ordered, when does the truck arrive?
So once I place the order, they would be able to tell me where I'm at on the order system. They estimate anywhere between 4 to 6 months, which is kind of typical for an order on a fleet vehicle like this. So once I get the order placed, they tell me where I'm at in the order, and then they typically keep me updated as it's going through the process of being built.
And I see the goal is to have it, the new spreader and everything all up and running for next winter.
Correct. So we would get the bed order. Once the vehicle is ordered, we would go ahead and get the bed coming. We would probably wait till winter time when we get closer to assess the need for that spreader. But we anticipate that the spreader we have would also be replaced.
That was going to be my next question. Can you use the spreader you already have?
We will if we can, but as we pull it off and evaluate it, being salt spreaders, some of the components are corroded. It just makes more sense to buy a new one at the age that it is versus try to start replacing a bunch of parts and not have a dependable piece of equipment.
Okay, so I have a motion.
All right, let's make a motion to purchase the F-550 from Shawnee Mission Ford in the amount of $70,674.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Wells, Ms. Murphy, please second. Second by Mrs. Murphy to purchase your diesel lane. What about the auto shop? Did you get them to do some work on the one that you wanted to get to work on? Pardon? Yeah. Yeah.
We could, yes, we have, trying to match up, salty roasted garlics.
Okay, we got a motion to second. 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Consideration of concrete projects.
Yep, I'm back here again every year to ask to do some concrete work around the district. We've identified some certain areas that really need attention, and that's what I'm bringing for you today. I'll have to answer any questions.
Did you root for the Chiefs? No.
I'm an Iowa State fan, so Brock Purdy, I didn't really care one way or the other. It's not the Minnesota Vikings, so.
So the Pioneer Sports Complex is pretty new. What are the concrete issues happening around there?
Over there, that whole complex was built back in the 2000 area, and they were using limestone mixed in. We're using granite mix now. The limestone is just failing. We've done a lot of work around the middle school for the same reason, and now we inherited that, so now we're starting to replace it.
Any questions? Have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the bid from Thurston Concrete in the amount of $65,860.
I'll second.
What did you say? Got a motion by Mr. Wells, second by Mr. Reed to purchase or extend the contract with Kirsten Construction. All in favor? 7-0. Okay. Moving right along. Consideration of Microsoft licensing renewal. Oh, there's a minute.
Good evening. This is for our Microsoft licensing that runs our Windows operating systems for desktops and servers. This will be for a 3-year agreement that will lock the pricing for 3 years. I did get 3 bids and I recommend the lowest bid as it's all the same product.
Have we used this company before?
Yes, we have.
Are we currently using this company?
No, so we got our licensing last year from Connection and they were a little high this year.
We didn't do a 3-year last year when we got it?
We did, so it was from 3 years ago, so this was
Okay.
our last year of our agreement, so this will be a new agreement for 3 years.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to recommend that we accept the lowest bid from Journey Ed for the 3-year subscription totaling $68,097.33.
Second.
Who got that one? Stephanie, is that you? Oh, this. I can't tell where it's coming from. So we got a motion from Mrs. Wells, seconded by Mrs. Reed on the contract for Microsoft. All in favor? But 7-0. You gotta stay up there, don't you?
Yeah, sure.
Got a call. Go ahead and go to your next meal.
Okay, so the next one is for our student refresh of Chromebook devices. We're looking to get 900 of them. We'll be steering with Acer is the model. Last 2 refreshes we did, we went with the 751 and 752s. This year will be 753s. We've had great luck with Acer. Our tech department is certified with Acer, so we're able to order parts directly through them. And yeah, any questions?
How many Chromebooks do you guys see that you can't repair per year?
Can't repair, I'd say maybe. It's honestly not that much. If we can't repair one, then we use that Chromebook for parts. So we're able just to Frankenstein pretty much. What would you say would be our loss?
Our loss is about 6% a year Chromebooks, between damages that we can't repair because the student has dropped it, and it's been dropped several times. But Acer's been pretty good, and our protective covers have done us really well.
Will our same covers hold the new Chromebooks or will we need additional ones?
We'll have to order new ones.
Is that in this proposal?
It
or
is
that
not.
would be a separate?
We still need to look at different shells to see which one's the best.
Where is CDWG? Where are they located? Who is that?
It's an online corporation, so usually everything we do is online. They have a state contract. Bids for stuff like that.
Chicago? What'd you say?
Chicago, yeah, that's the right word.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the lowest bid in the amount of $267,570 from CDWG.
I think this is one.
Roll the tape, but
Play that back. All right, so we got motion by Mr. Wells, seconded by Mrs. Oakley to purchase the Chromebook from Sidway. For lack of a better word. All in favor? 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we're gonna have a 5-minute recess for biological reasons, understand? Let's see, what time is it?
7:52, 7:57.
So, let's go back at 7. Okay. Be careful. Board members, okay. Well, policy, I have textbooks, instructional materials, and grades,
Just to introduce this item, we did get asked what does IF stand for, and it's not an abbreviation for anything. So for the public, each of our board policies are basically organized alphabetically. I stands for instructional program in this case, and the policy we're talking about is textbooks, instructional materials, and media centers. Both how materials are selected, and then also what happens if or when materials are challenged. For tonight, we've had 3 board members, each provide suggested edits, and they are listed in your agenda in the order they were received. Mrs. Price is listed as policy A, Mrs. Overby is listed as policy B, and Mrs. Wells is listed as policy C. So those are the 3 different policy changes at the table for tonight's discussion.
well, like the alphabet, we'll start with policy A.
Nothing's changed from when we submitted in January. It was just clarifying some things about, people were in the district with issues with the community challenge, the composition of the review panel itself, using a district employee, not specifically the principal, because by the time it's got to that review policy, principal already made decisions on it, so it's basically a fresh set of eyes. And also basically deleting the December ads for multiple reasons. And I think they are sort of the nod that you would not trust our professionals, our teachers and staff. And the thing is, when we're thinking about language and policy, is the absence of a policy a detriment to the district? And to be honest, I went back and started looking at all the other districts in the state and what they've done with IF. So when you start looking at our conference, Lansing, Baser Linwood, Piper, all of them, none of them made any changes like this to IF. And so when we looked at the original policy of IF back in the summer of 22, these were not recommended changes then. And they were sort of like a Hail Mary change in December. I don't see them adding anything to the policies that we have. They're detrimental and restrictive, but they're not enhancing educational outcomes for the December edits. So if there's any questions there, those are my comments.
Okay, my changes, basically, it just deals with the amendment that came in December, which I feel like after hearing what some of the challenges and things that were read to this board and things that we have in our libraries, I wonder if maybe, I think we do need to clarify that. And again, like I said to you before, the problem's not the gay, it's the porn. It's really like, what do we want to put our name to? Do we want to have standards? Do we want to have boundaries? Because I'm telling you, I can look up a whole bunch of things that we do not have in our library. Do we just open that door wide? I think we restrict access to websites, don't we? We restrict the internet. We don't have kids who, if the kid's in 5th grade and he's curious about Pornhub, well, we've got to provide that access in our school. Now, what you do outside, what your kid has on their phone, what you do in your own home, that's on you. But I'm talking about boundaries and standards for the district. What do we put our name to? And it would be inappropriate for, people have said a lot about personal beliefs and whatnot. Okay, so if I'm a religious person, I don't come in and say, where's all the religious books? You're restricting me. Where's the catechism? Where is the Book of Mormon? Where is this in our library? I'm being persecuted because because it doesn't exist here. And it's not here for, at taxpayer expense, for me to check out and for my children to have access to. So it's about boundaries and standards. And some of the stuff that was read to us, some of the stuff that Ms. Reed has found, with the parent challenge. I mean, I don't know. I guess what frustrates me is beyond, you know, the name calling that you're a bigot, you're this, you're that. Where's the defense of that? Where's the educational value of that? Do we want to elevate the standard and provide something for our students that is aspirational or edifying in some way besides appealing to your most base passions? I mean, I just, some of that stuff is right on the line of pornography. If not, I would say it is pornography. And like was pointed out in the last meeting, it does read like penthouse porn. What is the purpose of that? What is the defense of that? Because there's never a defense. We just stand up and say, you're a book fan, or you're a bigot, you're the, no, what is the defense of that? And I don't hear any defense. It's always deflect, deflect, deflect. You're a bad person because you want a different standard. You have, you know, but where's the defense of that? Why are we shoveling garbage to our kids when there's so many other things available? And it is ridiculous to say, you know, that some people want to restrict and some people want to open up. That's not true, because I've done lots of title searches and lots of, you know, on content. We don't have any books on Ben Carson. We don't have any books on Thomas Sowell. We don't have any of that stuff. So somebody's making decisions and making decisions, this, not that, this, not that.
Off of their personal bias and their politics.
Yes, a lot has been made about my personal bias or some other people in the community, our personal bias. You can't bring that into this, but somebody is making those decisions. Because obviously, what exists in this district is the tiniest sliver of what's available. I mean, of all the books and all the media materials that exist in the world, USD 453 has a tiny sliver of that. And obviously, it is ridiculous to say that, you know, decisions aren't being made, like I said, this, not that, this, not that. So where's the defense of this versus that? Why is it so important that we're going to bring in this very graphic, very, you know, like basically a how-to guide on how to engage in certain sex acts? When did that become a part of what people wanted for their children's education? I mean, I don't understand that. And the amendment that was written, yeah, you know, I would have never thought of that 5 years ago. But when you see what somebody has chosen to put in our libraries, maybe it's necessary to further clarify that and, you know, put some better, clearer guidelines of what the guidelines are and what the guardrails are. Here's the guidelines, this is what we're going for, this is the no-go zone. In between there's a million choices you can make. And nobody ever says why you're choosing this versus something else. And if it's representation, everybody's got to see themselves. Well, I'm quite sure that in this district we have students who abuse drugs and alcohol. We don't go and open a bar up on Main Street. We have students who come from very conservative families. And we don't seem to, you know, stay up at night worried about, do they see themselves? Are we making sure that they feel supported and welcomed and elevated and celebrated? And I'm not saying that we should. I'm not saying that we should. I'm just making a point that, you know, the way this is framed is really frustrating because it's like, you know, you're very close-minded, you're a big A, you hate certain people, you're punishing certain people. Well, you're making choices too. Where is your defense of the choices that you're making? So that's the part about the sexually graphic materials. And another change that I made is the gender ideology stuff. What are you putting your name on as USD 453? What are you endorsing? What are you encouraging? I don't know. That makes me a little uncomfortable. We're going to take little bitty kids and put them, you know, and suggest to them to put yourself on a path to possibly destroy your physical body and become a lifelong medical patient. And we put our name to that. Now, you can have whatever opinion you want to have on that. We all have different opinions on that. But what do we put our name on as USD 453?
Okay, number one.
You can put that out, the boundaries. It's a boundaries and standards for this taxpayer-funded space.
May I speak now? Okay, number one, I don't think it was a school of porn. I mean, you make it sound like that's all we're trying to teach them, the way that you just stated. And the only example I'm not a big reader anymore, but I did read the book about the trials and tribulations of the American Indian boy that everybody thought was just about masturbation. I read the book, and it's a great book, in my opinion, and a whole lot of them are the bestseller and top book, because it taught the whole premise of that thing, exaggerated as it was about not acceptance of certain people, whether they be handicapped, whether they be gay, whether they be Indian, whether they be African Americans, or whatever. That was the premise of the book. And he had to put it out there in such a weird form by a kid, the main character being encephalitic, club feet, terrible teeth, and he was gay. So that to me is not teaching porn. That's ridiculous. So
What about the book that Ms. Gallegos read? What was it? American Psycho?
Sure, it's a library book. It's an optional thing. It's not mandatory for everyone to read. And not every child is able to read.
What are you putting your name to?
We're not indoctrinating. My point is, we're not indoctrinating people to read this. We're not doing it. I don't care what anybody says, that's not happening.
So are we going to put drugs, just making drugs
You what?
available?
You what?
We can just go ahead and put drugs in the hallways, because not every kid is going to do it, just make it available. Just keep them in the library.
Let's get back on task of the policy.
It's
So,
not good policy, it doesn't cure you.
Yes, it's a new restriction, language is not good policy. If it was such good policy, one, it should have been brought up when the policy was reviewed 2 summers ago. It was not. It was a Hail Mary at the end, I get it. And if it was such good policy, and it's so damaging to our students, why isn't every other district in the state doing it?
As a anonymous price, I don't like that policy.
Well, if
But a policy that should be passed, this board is not going to pass. One that protects all students and makes sure that all materials are updated.
Actually, that is the case. That policy does exist. IF as it was before the December.
We have all the garbage with it, so obviously that didn't work.
It's not all the garbage.
Like what she read at the January meeting.
Like I said, it's not all the garbage, and I'm not here to talk about specific books. You keep going to tag me with that. No, the policy is to be written over, large, wide-ranging, it's not meant to be restrictive. And if the issue is to prevent harm, I get it, okay, that's why we have the process to come back and challenge a book.
As Hillary pointed out, you don't want to speak about specific books because you have no defense for those books.
Actually, I do, but I'm a bookworm, and I would never ban a book unless I was the last person on earth, and I would not even ban a book then. Because part of me is that a child of any age is taking a book to read it, they have an interest, they have the maturity to read it, fine.
So you're telling me that a kindergartner has the maturity to read a book telling them, introducing gender identity, it's specifically written to introduce gender identity to the youngest readers. This book specifically tells them they can be a girl and a boy. Can you explain to me the truth behind that statement?
What they want to be is none of my business. They're all human beings. No, if it's written at a content appropriate age, okay, if it's meant to be written for kindergarten, first grade, whatever, and that child is a kindergartner and has a question, okay, maybe they don't go into it by themselves. They probably should have that discussion with their parents. I get that. Parents should be involved.
Okay, so what you just said is the policy wasn't good enough, because in the current policy, this was allowed to be there without parental discretion. So you.
I'm saying they should have that
The
discussion
policy
with their
didn't
parents
work.
too. But if the child has a question, the child is curious, the child wants information, okay, read it.
No, then
You're not
then
the
their
parent.
parents can let them.
And you're not the parent to say someone else can't read that book.
But I'm not giving stuff to kids that make harm. I'm not an advocate.
I'm not
Kids
forcing
cutting
all
the
of
Bible stuff. Okay,
I'm not forcing
this is
any
what
books on
this
any
leads
child.
to.
And you know what? It's not saying you can't read it.
I know.
It's not saying you can't read it. You can read it. You can own it. You can do it. It's what do you put your name to? USD 453. What is the standard? What are the boundaries?
The standard
That's all.
existed already.
Because it's not banned. You can read the books. If you want your kids to read that, they go.
That's why we had the things we had. You're advocating for zero standards.
No, I'm not advocating zero
Then
standards.
what does it make
No.
it?
But what is the standard?
What is the standard? I have as written.
This is supposed to be a discussion, not a dog fight. If you want to speak, go ahead and speak, but let's don't be speaking over each
So
other.
standards do exist.
Are there any guardrails?
Standards do exist. IF as written is a standard, and it does have guardrails. It does outline, these are the requirements as you go through it. The issue before is like, what is appropriate? Okay, we'll put in appropriate. Again, you want to add a rural library association, that's good. That's another source of what is appropriate for that age range. I get it. Because in my mind, I see when they go back for books, or work out some sort of matrixed rubric that says, here are the different sources, and here's how they rate them. Is this something we want to, as we want to buy this other book or whatever, how do we go about it? IF does have guardrails. The December ads, no. The December ads, when you start talking about books that are written for age-appropriate content, okay? You're talking about age-appropriate content, that was addressed. But when you start talking about ideology, that's not age-appropriate, that's no place. And ideology, when you start talking about those kind of things, the restricted language that's put in there, that's what opens you up to any kind of First Amendment, what's the word I'm looking for, challenges. That restricted language, okay, that takes the guardrails away because it just focuses it right down. And then you get a reputation for being a district that you don't like your teachers and you don't like your kids. Because I got asked that in a conference because this got out. It's not necessarily a laughing stock, but people do look at it as like, what? Everybody's drinking in the water here. What is causing that? Because IF across the state, if what we're adding is saying, oh, it's needed, everybody else needs it, and nobody else is picking it up, how is that, helping our children? Because now you're putting them at a disadvantage to other districts that don't have an issue with IF as written prior to December.
They're at a disadvantage because they don't have access to sexually explicit.
No, I'm not talking about sexually explicit library. Actually, when you start looking at some of the AP courses and other things like that, yeah, they're in there.
I think I addressed that in my changes too.
I get it. But I'm saying the December ads as they are, for that chunk for collection development, that just needs to go away.
I need a clarification on comment. I got a lot of questions because this got out. This is a public board meeting.
I get it.
So of course this would be
Yes.
out.
But
if
this
it's
is
not
not
clear, it's gonna get out if we've been discussing it in the public. So to say, because I got questions because this got out, sounds like we were supposed to be keeping it
No, let me
secret.
clarify. This got out of our district, out of our conference area. I'm talking like way west Kansas. I'm talking southeast Kansas. Districts that have no contiguous connection to us are like, wow, what is happening to you guys in London?
And I get comments from the other side. I just got family that came up and talked to me and thanked me for taking the heat for them. Because we don't have a culture where both sides of the aisle are represented in this district.
Well, public education is becoming an unfriendly place to,
And it is a national dialogue,
And I get
so Leavenworth is not any more special than any other place that has had to address these issues.
So how do we go back to the policy but still keep certain books
private, that you can access them if you as a parent have a gift.
That goes back to those specific books. If they're being challenged, then we go through the process. And there's levels of process of review for each challenge. And then that's determined, okay, well, does it go back to the main, circulation area? Does it go to its restricted area? Does it go to kids only, parents only? That's for that challenge process.
So that's
And that was one of the other December ads, to put the board in the approval process for all the purchases. But when you do that, you've just taken away the challenge process because you put us in as the approval authority for the books on the front.
The first one before December, that's the way the state gave it?
No,
Or there.
no, the December ad puts the board in the approval process for buying.
Okay, let's move on to see.
Can we move on to because you were talking about the review changes? I had a couple other changes there as well. Because you talked about the review process, and I think that the way that it's written, it sets it up, so why even have a review process? If you basically stack that committee in favor of the district, we already know what the district said. If it gets to that level, we already know what the complainant wants, we already know what the district said. So wouldn't you adjudicate that, like bringing in more community?
Now, I did talk to Mr. Callen in our board meeting about that and how the committees were formed, and he had picked at that time. And I expressed originally when we had the board committee, when Mrs. Price was president, she assigned Mr. Powell to be in charge of the committee. I was the second board member, and they did a lottery of all people that wanted to volunteer to be on it. And then, Jake, Mr. Potter sat there with Mr. Powell and I in a room with all those names in a box, and then drew the 3 winning contestants. And it ended up being a fair and even outcome of ideas and opinions. And a lot of what came in that they did put in for that December, I wasn't part of any of the writing on that, but a lot of that they added in there for your Hail Mary was because of things that were said and reported in that committee over that whole 6 weeks of summer. So it's not like they sat there and came up that. I have my notes set at home. I know what every volunteer said. We have reports that were turned into the board as well. So I don't think I would be saying a couple of guys sat here and did some kind of Hail Mary just to before they left. I think their intent was to listen to those volunteers that were drawn to big on that committee.
I think it just should have been much sooner.
And the board itself had to be on it. They kept it passed down the ball. So where you wanted to call it a Hail Mary now, we kept passing the buck because people didn't want to touch it. And I'm sure it was tabled. My feeling, not that I have proof, my feeling was it was tabled until election. Nobody wanted to touch it, knowing that they were touching it prior to election. And that's I've had a lot of constituents come to me and tell me that the board itself in not dealing with it before elections was political.
Just like this board didn't want to talk about it last time.
Okay. Here's my take on it, and I've said that before, I know people want to talk about longevity, but I've been on the board a long time. And why is it all of a sudden in the last 5 years, everybody was dumbed down before, and now everybody knows what's appropriate? Why wasn't it in the 70s, 80s, 90s?
If you look at when these book
If
you look at when these book purchases were made in our district, that might help answer your question.
Because I called the American Library Association, talked to the director there. And for one thing, she doesn't have to do with books going to school. Well, about the processing. So it just seemed to me, and I'm going to say it became critical race theory scare about 4 years ago, right about the time of the pandemic, down in Virginia, the governor. And people would question me in the public, and I'll name names, I don't like to use generalities, but we weren't, and we never probably will. It's just one of the scare tactics that came out, along with that and everything else, manifested in the zoo.
Are you saying that we don't teach CRT?
Pardon me?
Are you saying that we don't teach CRT?
Yes, we are not.
So you
Tell
don't,
me who's teaching it, what class?
so do you remember when?
Tell me who's teaching it, and what class?
We're not supposed to divulge teachers because of privacy issues.
What class?
The social studies department at the.
Teaching CRT, and what
Do
proof
you
that?
remember Mr. Goodman sitting here?
Yeah, I remember Mr. Goodman.
So you're calling him a liar?
I'm not calling anybody a liar, I'm just telling you, we're not, are we gonna say there's no racial problems in this country ever?
That's not
Well,
CRT.
CRT,
And it's not,
CRT. I know what CRT is, I read a lot
and
about it.
nobody's teaching the theory, okay? The deconstructionist,
Well,
you know, Marxist
I
theory.
still stand by
But
it. I still stand by the fact,
Incorporated, yes.
I believe the head of the department is an honest person, and, it wasn't any CRT described. So let's move on to C.
So C, what I've proposed is what KASB initially put out to us without any additional changes, which most of the school districts across our state adopted without any changes, and all of the school districts in our region adopted without any changes. That is what I'm proposing that we go back to. It's the original without any changes that KASB proposed to us. That is what I'm proposing.
I want to bring up an issue that popped out on yours that I wondered about. On the review committee, you have one student. If that book was being challenged, the one that Ms. Reed just held up, what student are you going to put on it? I mean, are we being led by the children now? Are we going to pick a kindergartner to be on that review committee to see if that's appropriate? Or are we going to pick are we talking about a high school student, or why is the student on the review committee?
So I can see where that information would be valuable, especially if the student was not part of the challenge, if the student had never seen the material before, and the student with their parent, potentially if their parent agreed to, read the book together and get that student's opinion of what they just received. I can see that being valuable information.
Are we talking about the age of the student that it was written for?
I would assume.
No, that would actually have to be put in there. You couldn't just put, I assume you're going to put a 5-year-old with a 5-year-old book.
I'm not suggesting anything added to this. I'm suggesting this is being done.
I would suggest that this has been going on long enough, and I agree with Loves that it just needs to go back to the original form. And if there is a book like that, then let's bring it forward. Let's do what we need to do to make sure it's where it needs to be. I'm just gonna say, and I don't know if anyone really remembers how this all started, but it was because of the Fire Force series and the pornography and sexual abuse.
That's not why this policy started.
And that is exactly why we went through that 6-week
The
committee
scrutiny started, yes.
meeting. Oh, absolutely was. Mrs. Price appointed me to be on that committee, and it was because of those Fire Force books that were said that everyone were read before it was ever put on the shelf, to find out, no, they weren't. Some were read at the bookstore, the rest were ordered online, sight unseen. That is exactly what brought us here today.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt policy IFC as presented.
I second. Vote, all in favor? 4-3, let's move on.
So to clarify, this will go back to the original prior to the second.
Okay.
I thought it was supposed to go to the original one, the KSA,
Yeah,
row,
I'm saying
even
that's-
before.
Yeah, prior to the second. Yep, 13 lines of communication protocol. Dr. Adams, do you want me to speak to that?
Yeah, I guess, tell me if you can hear me.
Can't hear you.
Can you make them louder?
Just a second.
And if not, Amy, you're certainly probably ready to talk about it. I just was going to kind of provide some context and background, so.
Go ahead.
Okay, is this better?
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so there should be a PDF in front of you that we intend to put on the website, social media, and wherever else Mr. Potter is able to make that available for both internal as well as external stakeholders. I believe there is 4 of you in the room that attended the KASB sportsmanship training. If I'm not mistaken, that was 2 Saturdays ago now. That came up as one of the key concepts as it relates to stakeholder communication. So while those rows don't represent everything that happens in the district, they are broader categories, if you will, that help us as we work to answer questions and direct the patron or staff member to the appropriate first party. It all rests on the primary belief that we're going to resolve issues at the lowest level possible. So I'm just going to pick on an example. But let's say we have a patron that is concerned about a facility issue. Say you have a retaining wall block that was fallen at the Pioneer Career Center. While it's great that they are making you aware as a board member, the expectation is not that you as a board member are going to make sure that that block gets restored. So this helps you to direct that patron or person back to the appropriate party. In this case, I believe it would start with the building principal and Mr. Beneke in that situation. So again, I just want to reinforce the idea here is to help our individuals that are reporting issues, have concerns, questions, or otherwise, to have the ability to still communicate those, but also have it resolved.
So just in case you weren't able to hear, from your KSD 2 weeks ago, we've had similar documents like this. This document will be located throughout our website and multiple links, whether that's the district, the families. And so this is a guide for anyone, whether they're a parent, a guardian, a community member, who to contact. And the levels, always hoping that we can start at the lowest level, going and then working your way. If you don't get the answer that you need or need additional assistance, you would then go to level 2 and so forth. So.
Any questions?
Nope, it's information only.
Okay, item 14, strategic plan highlight.
Yeah, so Jake's here to present on some information with regards to the website.
So this is the part of the meeting where we show you something new on the strategic dashboard as it relates to our new strategic plan. And always intended as a highlight, remembering our focus areas, which are teaching and learning, staffing and personnel, finance and operations.
Can you also read that real quick? Everybody? Good? Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I have to start over.
Yeah.
Staff and personnel, finance and operations, family and community involvement, student engagement, and support services. So mine is family and community involvement. And I will tell you, what I'm going to show you tonight, we've never actually reported it out in this way. So I think it's going to be more beneficial when we look at this again in 6 months. So what you're going to see is some of our website analytics and social media reporting. And the time period is from July through December 31. So basically first and second quarter. So as a standalone, I'm going to say that there's some interesting factoids here, but again, I think they'll be more interesting when we have another 6-month body of what to compare it to. So this is our website, USD453.org. Some fun facts, I guess, is average time on the site is 39 seconds. That can mean that it's one of our parents that actually knows what they're looking for. Scrolls 39 seconds in and out. Just over, my eyes are terrible, so over 250,000 or so page views in the course of that 6 months. And user engagement is when you're looking at more than just the home screen, so some kind of a click action. I think that's like around 180,000 there. Second one is, if you've noticed within the last 6 months, we have a chatbot that shows up on the main page of the website. And from there, you can see that in that 6-month period, we've had over 1,000 questions. So what will be beneficial for me moving forward is these spikes are times of the year. So this is right around the first week of school, which makes sense because learning new routines, maybe your kid's in a new building, those situations. And I have a backup report that actually goes through each of the questions that are asked, so we can figure out if we're doing a good enough job of putting information out there. So for example, school hours shows up a lot. Clearly that means that we need to put that out there more because that's what people are looking for. And then that's the peak first week of the school year. We get a little bit more action as the school year goes on. But this is good in terms of 97% of the questions were able to be answered by the chatbot. So those beforehand were questions that came to my inbox. So that's very much appreciated.
I have used this and it was very nice. I was like, man, how are you on so much? Because I did not realize that it was AI answering me. And
Yeah.
like you.
That was me. Sometimes it's me. Sometimes it's me. A couple more are looking at our Facebook engagement. We track our response rate, and please know that that means if somebody messages, like if you message me, I message back, and then you say thank you again, and if I don't see that conversation, that's going to show up as a non-100% response rate. We also have an uptick in spam, so we're not responding to those messages as well. And I will say lots of times as soon as the winter snowflakes start to fall, we do get messages from students saying, are we going to have school tomorrow? I don't answer all of those as well.
Are you gonna start deleting some of that spam?
As best we can, as
Yeah,
best we
they're
can.
gonna put those T-shirt sales in.
As best we can. Response rate, I always try to get a response back within 24 hours. I feel like we do really good here and that we're under 4 hours in response time. That's an average. A little bit more, I would say, in the weeds. We'll continue to track over a 6-month period what some of our most popular posts are, and that will help to inform the kinds of things that we put on our social media. And then I'm going to adjust this graphic. The top line of what you see is our board meeting views, and all this is funneled to our YouTube channel. The bottom line is what we just started to shoot was the superintendent's school community updates. This number, though, just tracks the YouTube views. Dr. Adams' updates actually get way more action when we post them to Facebook. So I'm going to come back, and again, it's interesting to look at some of this stuff where this high was when we were talking about winter weather protocols. So just figuring out the type of information that we need to be putting out, that's something we'll look at on an annual basis moving forward. But I'm telling you that without the strategic plan, without Mr. Bodensteiner's dashboard, this gives us a different level of reporting than we've had previously. That's my time.
Thank you.
Anything else, Dave?
Not right now.
Item 15, superintendent report or acting superintendent.
So a couple things that Dr. Adams asked me to kind of update you on. We've had a lengthy discussion about it, is the 4-day school week. So just kind of tell you where we're at. I am chairing along with the athletics committee. And as Dr. Adams shared with you, we're looking at everything but the kitchen sink. This was one of those items, if you recall, he shared. And so we have a committee that has been meeting weekly. We've met 7 times for an hour. Along with some subcommittees. I know Mr. Kessler is my administrator on our committee, and so he has met with the administration, all the administrators tonight at our DLT. The entire hour was dedicated to the 4-day school week. We have surveyed our staff as we shared the results to the board. And so now we're in the process. Our next steps, our timeline is to survey our parents. And so that will happen actually February 22nd. Prior to sending out the survey, Dr. Adams on his weekly video will kind of explain a little bit of why we're looking at a 4-day school week, so that, and then also to tell parents to look for the email. And then we hope to survey all of our parents with some supporting documents that would show you what a 4-day, that Monday would appear to be if your student participated in the 5th day, that Monday, as far as the extended learning opportunities. So what can you expect from them as far as the board, the committee? It's not going to be any slum. It will be committee members. Myself will present our findings, what we have shared and learned, and we'll do that on March 4th. And at that time, we would ask for an action item from you as to direction of what the board wants us to do. Again, as stated by Mr. Kessler and I know Dr. Adams, it's a board decision whether or not you want us to continue to pursue that, or you're like, no, we're not interested, and then we'll stop. Okay, so that's where we're at. There'll be a presentation at the March 4th.
So that's an update on the 4-day school week. Any questions on that?
Yeah, I have a question on the survey that went out to our staff. Is it yes or no, or is there maybe or how?
So on the survey that went out to the staff, there was undecided, or the other category was, I'm sorry? No preference, sorry. And based off of that information in the survey that we shared with you, the results, our staff were in favor of it. And so that made us, okay, let's keep going. So now the next thing, we don't have staff, we can't do it. So now we have staff, we have buy-in, but we believe the majority of our staff are interested in it. So now it's time to get the input from our families.
And we received that letter from the staff.
Yes, we put that in the COE. I'm sorry, I've got two people, sorry.
Go ahead.
But we also received the comments.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a little confusing to me because it was, you know, yes, they're in favor of it, and I went through all those comments and it didn't really seem like that.
So those are the ones who, because you can fill it out based off of the questions and what your type was. So, to your question, we will survey our parents, but with parents, we really need, we can't have you be undecided. So it's either yes or no. We're going to do it the same way we did it before. We're going to survey all of our parents, and it's going to go out February 22nd. And it's going to be very similar to the staff survey, but it's going to be tailored for our parents with regards to that Monday, if they would be interested in the extended learning, what they see as benefits, what they see as cons or concerns, and then we'll provide you with that feedback just as we did for the staff. So that's kind of what to look forward to as far as that March presentation. What can we do to soothe some of these parents? I have a lot of people who read the newspaper where it pretty much said that we're looking to do this, and then the comment is, we understand it can cause hardship to families. You know, you can bring your kids to the school that day, we don't know what we're gonna do with it. And that kind of, the way that's printed in the paper like that, with that commentary, they're like, so I'm just gonna drop my kids off at school on a day that the teachers aren't there, no learning. But I'm just saying, that put out a really negative.
I can't speak to the article, but what I can say is.
One more time, so you have to talk to the reporter.
No, I mean, I can't speak to why what the comment was or whatever on the Times, but what I can tell you is Dr. Adams has been very adamant in our responsibility as a committee and with our administration that we would have enrichment activities for every student to participate if they wanted to. So it's similar, think of it as summer school. Summer school is extended learning, and it's open for anyone and everyone to participate. But parents, not all parents choose to participate. So it's very similar to that. But we will make sure that we have opportunities for all of our students, whether they choose to participate or not. That will be at the discretion of the parents. But we will do everything that we can prior to sending out the survey, to your point, Ms. Murphy, to provide them with as much information that we possibly can so they can make a decision that they feel is best for them.
Okay, so when you're talking about the enrichment activities, kind of like summer school, so this was supposed to be more of a planning period for educators without students, but now we're going to have educators with students enriched.
You're talking
Who's going to be in charge of doing enrichment?
So we're working on all of those pieces, and that's what we're going to be presenting to you at the March 4th.
Would it be new hires?
It's a combination of current staff, substitutes, people that are, there is the potential of additional staff that would just be working that Monday. It's similar to summer school. We have teachers that work summer school. We have community members that work summer school. We have college kids that work summer school. There's lots of opportunities. We're actually pursuing every possible, but the plan would be teachers are doing teacher readiness, and then in our large spaces, our co-lab spaces type things, we would have student activities. And it would vary. It would be different at the high school versus an elementary, what you're looking at. Yeah, but we hope to answer all those questions. That is our goal.
And that would be included in with the Earl Dawson or
It will have every grade level configuration. Yes, ma'am. So that is the 4-day week update. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
One of the questions I got from staff was, why are they calling it a 4-day work week if we have to come to a building more than 4 days?
It's not a 4-day work week, it's a 4-day school week is what we're calling it. It's a 4-day school week. It is not a 4-day work week. Yes. And we've tried to clarify that, and I feel like we have with our staff.
But now I can say it openly, so everybody can hear it. It is a 4-day school week. Staff are still working 5 days. Teachers are still working. This is their contract. They're fulfilling their obligation, as will all of our classified. They'll fulfill their obligation. There will be no loss of wages for any of our staff.
So earlier I was asking if you were following like the detailed model that Independence did.
We are
What model are you following?
We're actually creating the Leavenworth USD 453 model. It's best for us. We're taking pieces of others, looking at everybody, and we're fitting it for what we have, and also fitting it for our community. We have lots of community resources that others don't, and vice versa. So we're going to fit it for what works best for USD 453 and our families.
The reason I ask is because if we're gonna say, look at this over here, look how great this is, look at how happy everyone is, and we're not actually doing it the same way. You know, details sometimes are where everything is, things are great at that. That was my thought process.
Understood. The only other thing is, we put out a message tonight to our families. Mr. Potter did. There will be no school this Wednesday for our staff and our students, so they can celebrate our Chiefs. Yes, so we're excited about that. And then yeah, so that's all I have.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Item 16, executive session negotiation.
How much time do we need? 15 minutes, please.
It's
We're gonna go back into the band room, just right outside the store.
going to walk it. This team's going to walk it.
Mr. President, I move we go into executive session to discuss negotiations pursuant to the exception for employer-employee negotiations under the Kansas Open Meetings Act, and that we return to open session in this room in 15 minutes at 8:59. And the board would like to invite Dr. Adams. Is he going to join us remotely?
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Adams, Amy Sloan, Beth Maddox, and is our board attorney going to?
We have an attorney.
Oh, okay. And Kate Gallen to the meeting.
Second.
Okay, just a reminder, Jesse, we heard it. No cell phones for the executive session, no laptops or anything like that. So we had a motion from Mr. Wells. That was second. Mr. Second for executive session negotiation. All in favor? There we go. Let's go.
Mr. President, I move we go into executive session to discuss non-elected personnel pursuant to the exception under the Kansas Open Meetings Act in order to protect the privacy interests of the individuals to be discussed, and that we return to open session in this room in 20 minutes. The board would like to invite Dr. Adams, Amy Sloan, and Kate Gallen into the meeting.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Wells, second by Mrs. Murphy, to the executive session for what she just told us about. All in favor? 7, 8.
Mr. President, I'd like to accept the staffing report as presented.
Second.
The motion to accept the staff report, second by Amy Price, all in favor? 7-0. Okay, we're now going to close the meeting.
9:22.
Pardon me?
At 9:22.
9:17.
22, the time.
What? Nothing.
No, you don't. She just said.
Oh. So, we have to call to order.
Let's do roll call.
Call to order. Here. So, looks like, okay, Danny Rowell.
Yes.
Mr. Wilson. You here?
We're having to redo the call order.
Rather than meeting.
I said, and then he said this. Oh, yes.
Facility. Ms. Murphy.
Here.
Price.
Here.
Cardi, I'm here, okay.
I would go ahead and ask Jake to come up. Did you just? I'm sorry, did you?
I saw this.
Where we're at is 21, a book challenge hearing, and Jake's just gonna kind of walk you through.
As a reminder, policy IF, as was written, still has the steps of challenges for any individual, whether they're a parent, guardian, or community member. Challenge level 1 is meeting with the child's teacher and principal. Number 2, if not happy with that result, is meeting with the superintendent. Number 3 is convening a review committee. And number 4 would be this board here affirming or changing or supporting review committee finding. January 5th of this year, the review committee gave the board a report, 3 books that were challenged. In this instance, the challenger appealed the review committee findings, but to go over those, the 3 books were It Feels Good to Be Yourself, I Am Jazz, and Rick. The review committee asked that I Am Jazz be placed in the counselor's office and for adult checkout only, no longer available to students.
I see 4 books listed. Rick,
Okay.
okay.
The challenger only challenged 3 books. It Feels Good to Be Yourself. The review committee also asked that that be placed in the counselor's office and only restricted to parent checkout, no longer available to students. Rick by Alex Gino, in this case was elementary. The review committee recommended that it be moved up to grades 7 and 8. In this instance, the review committee went one step further and researched another title by that same author, which was by Alex Gino. George and Melissa is the name of that title. The review committee independently asked that that be treated the same as Rick. So that's why you see 4. The original complainant only asked for 3 books to be challenged. Because we haven't had one of these before, serving in my role as liaison, we informed both the challenger of the hearing tonight and also the review committee, and they were under no obligation to be here or present or anything like that. Neither of the 2 parties are here. So I'm briefing out is the review committee report as you received in January, and with the knowledge that the challenger in this case does not like the results because she wants the titles removed from all schools. That's her request.
So at this time, you guys take action on this, since we don't have a parent here, but maybe you feel.
I would like to propose that we accept the review committee's proposal and that we accept their recommendations.
Second.
Voting for Mrs. Wells, second by Mr. Weiss, to accept the challenge results. The challenge, Senate, all in favor? 4, 3. Okay. Closing the voting. Challenge hearing, and we're going to come back in the regular session. Mrs. Reed, are you here?
I am here.
Mr. Wilson?
Here.
Mr. Murphy?
Here.
Okay. You were going to do that come to the meeting date, so
Yep, happy to. So just as a reminder, that again, there is no school this Wednesday. The district is closed on February 14th. The district is closed February 19th in observance for President's Day.
And my birthday.
I'm sorry?
And my birthday.
Oh, well, there you go. The February 21st, I want to remind you that that is Dr. Adams is having coffee with Helen at the board office at 7 a.m. Again, that's February 21st. And then our next board meeting is March 4th, back at the board office. The end of the quarter is March 5th. We have parent-teacher conferences coming up right around the corner, March 6th and 7th. There will be no school, and then followed by spring break, the 11th through the 15th, and the district is closed district-wide from the 11th through the 15th. And then March 29th is a non-working day following the holiday.
Ready? Thank you. Okay, can you schedule three? Okay. Three. Oh, yeah. That's it. So first up for Mac Allen.
Good evening, is this Margaret? Sorry. Good evening, my name is Mac Allen, and I'm a student at this school district. Tonight's board meeting has been a long one, with many words exchanged between multiple board members. Your words as the faces of USD 453 are important, and I'm now going to hold you all accountable for the words that you have said tonight. One board member stated, "The last character was a boy and a girl. I would like to ask the board, how does that work? How would you have a stable family unit for raising children? It's not the board's job, nor the constituents, to educate you. As a board member of the school district as diverse as USD 453, you are responsible for educating yourself on all the types of students, as well as the parents that you serve." The same board member then stated, "Can you tell me how a boy and a girl are how a boy and a girl are the same? Education is your job, not mine." A different board member then stated, "Is this what we put our names on? By becoming a school board member, you have put your name on me, a transgender student who is medically transitioned. Can you really believe yourself when you say I am mutilating my body? For your information, I feel just fine. You can have your own opinions and beliefs, but as a nonpartisan office holder, I find it deplorable that you have spoken in this way. We don't have to be opponents, but as the most visible transgender student in this district, I will hold you accountable for the harm that you caused to my community." The same board member stated, "We need to elevate our standards. Your elevation of standards is systematically removing any representation for a federally protected class of people, as shown in Document B, proposed changes to the IF policy, middle school program and classroom, middle school and classroom library, item 4. The federal protection can be found in the Title VII of Civil Rights Act of 1964 and Title IX in the Education Amendments of 1972. I ask you now, when is the last time any of you wrote a book? Who are you to decide what is art and what is not? The human life is incredibly complex. And big surprise, our lives include sex. Not to mention, not every mention of sexuality or gender is pornographic. To suggest so is inaccurate and very telling of your views on such subjects. During this board meeting, I have been reduced to being a drug, an ideology, and a mistake. I can assure you that I'm none of these things. I'm a student, I'm an athlete, I'm a performer, I'm a brother, I'm a son, and yes, I am transgender. But that does not make me any less human than the rest of you. Thank you.
Good evening. I know you all missed me last month when I was absent, so I wanted to be sure and welcome Mrs. Overby to the board and Mrs. Wilson and returning members.
Since November, I've encouraged this board to seek out counsel, which according to records that are very public, we spend a significant amount of money on. In doing so, regarding the rampant porn that you believe is in our district, here are the legal criteria that any piece of art is judged by. These are 3 things that a work of art must be, all 3 without fail, to be considered pornographic. 1, have a dominant theme in the work considered as a whole that appeals to prurient interest. 2, be patently offensive because it goes beyond contemporary community standards. And 3, be utterly without any redeeming social value. And again, I ask you to take that up with Robert when you talk about the books that we have and why many of these books will not meet this test. Second, much criticism has been given to the titles we don't have. Again, I ask you to remember that in several buildings we have staff aides or paras, or if we're lucky, some parent volunteers running our library. Their primary priority has been to get access to the most popular and requested titles that our kids are asking for. Ben Carson is not one of them. Second, outside of the high school, there are very few buildings in our district that have a good budget for their libraries. They depend on the book sales and whatever fundraisers they use to purchase the books that they have. And Scholastic Booksellers is limited to largely popular fiction, some nonfiction books. There isn't a lot of option for them there, and they have no budget to buy books with. Lastly, regular reading, title analysis, and evaluations cannot happen when we do not have libraries in our librarians in our buildings. Paras, teachers' aides, and volunteer parents do not know how to run those kinds of reports. They don't even know what they mean. That's what you hire librarians to do. Mention of the Bible and other religious texts would lead the public to perhaps believe they are not present in our schools, and that is emphatically false. I fight for every book to have a right on the shelf, and I guarantee you we have the Bible, we have the Book of Mormon, we have the Quran, on and on and on, and they are in our elementary schools as well. I will continue to defend their right to stay on the shelves, as I will continue to defend the right of all the books that you choose to challenge. Y'all have a good night.
Randy Vaughn.
Tonight, board members complained that their personal views about policy IF are being twisted to make them look biased or bigoted. Well, if during the same conversation those members comment that books about transgender persons should not be in our libraries because those books will cause students to mutilate their bodies, all I can say is that your bias is showing.
Board comments. Ms. Reed.
My comments? So, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this, but I think people should be very cautious what they vote for, and how they support in public, people are watching. And then, making sure that we're very clear with who we are, especially because people vote for us. And so if someone wants to say they're a Christian, they're a Bible-believing Christian, they go to churches that believe the Bible, and then they want to take stances that are completely against that, that's worth noting. And then on that point, I don't think that any lines have been blurred at all. But just to clarify, that every single person, I believe, is a creation of God and is beautiful and absolutely of high value. And that's why these issues are very important, that we speak factually. If you're cutting off a part of your body to look different, it is what it is. So, I had told everyone that I committed to talking about our um, academics every month. And what I noticed was that a lot of the websites are outdated. One of the shows us in the bottom of 50% for math and reading scores in the state of Kansas, which has roughly 250 school districts. Those statistics were from the 21-22 school year, and so I haven't been able to hear back from them and see where they would rank us yet for the 23-24 school year. I don't think it's better. I haven't read anything that it would be better if my kids first. And then, in response to Mr. Carney, the ALA does have a recommended reading list, which obviously is provided for anybody that wants to see it. And I think we've done quite a bit of discussion that our librarians are influenced by the ALA as far as what books are purchased. That's it for Jim.
I'd like to go back to your first comment because I know it was directed towards me after you said that I thought you were a Christian, but I very much am a Christian, and I believe my God has called me to love, and not all my neighbors will look like me or be like me, but I'm to love them where they're at.
Absolutely. To mention our side of loving is not encouraging.
Okay.
Not my encouraging, but I'm loving them where they're at.
Go ahead.
Other than that, I'm glad to be here and represent.
I want to congratulate the Raiders on being full-time national champions. I was unable to attend the big celebration on Saturday due to a prior commitment, but by all accounts, it was quite the celebration. I hope to attend next year's celebration when our Raiders become 5-time national champions. On the IF policy decision, obviously I took a different side than what was decided, but it was decided, and we go as a board. And I don't think that anyone sitting here has bad intentions or doesn't care about people or love people where they're at. And we, as I've said over and over again, is about boundaries. It's about boundaries. But we have a decision and we will go on. Lastly, I'd like to make a shameless plug for the Special Olympics basketball tournament fundraiser taking place at the high school this coming Saturday. We have lots of our pioneers participating as athletes, coaches, and volunteers. So come cheer on our athletes and be a part of something truly joyful. Go Pioneers. Starts at, Make the Point starts at 8:30. And then they'll be playing the games throughout, usually runs till about 3.
Ms. Murphy?
I want to piggyback what Karen said about JROTC. It was a phenomenal banquet. I was at 3 hours, great spaghetti. You know, and when you can have a 5-year-old sitting there and still be pleasant and happy for the whole 3 hours and participatory, you know it's a really great event. Wonderful guest speaker, General Ham. We could always take here with the board and the rest of the district, remembering First Sergeant words, not just fired up and click to click. Every moment that goes on is a click to a click. So you have your time watch, it's click to click. So your race doesn't stop, it starts and finishes with each click. As First Sergeant says, your first click's the day you were born, your last click's the day you died. Each clicks in between matter. Hey, did you guys take a look at that gift log? There have been over $1,100 donated between hat, scarves, gloves, knitted by volunteers for our students so they can stay warm, and $800 in choir club uniforms in the Methodist Church. Our community stands by us and supports us, and we need to remember them as often as we try to remember everything else within this district. And everyone that is going to the parade, hey, have fun, be careful, don't drink, don't do drugs, don't drink, do drugs, and drive. There are little kids there, so please be aware, because it can be a stampede. So enjoy the festivities, enjoy the camaraderie, and relish in the glow of success. But remember, the next day, whatever we're all doing, it's still time to get back to work again. Thank you.
So I did get to attend the celebration banquet. It's one of those, anytime we can celebrate all of our really hardworking students and the extra miles and extra miles that they go to go to the level they did. It was really impressive, just what they can do and their perseverance. Along with that, good luck to all the drillers this weekend as they go out to Smith Cotton rather, for the next drill meet. I'm sure they'll bring home lots of hardware because that's what they do. It's always exciting to see how they go. But one of the things I wanted to say thank you is to all of the boys and girls basketball teams, the cheerleaders, and the band for giving it their all every game night, whether or not the games turn out the way we want them to. The fact that they're out there every time and doing their best, it's amazing. And as a follow-on to that, I had a member from another team come up to me and tell me how awesome our facilities are. So I really, really, really want to say thank you to all of our custodial staff for keeping us up to snuff. Because when you have visitors that tell you you have a great place, you got to put things from the right places. And thanks to all our teachers and staff, as always. You make us the best we are. So thank you. And thanks to Quest for all the snacks. You guys are good. Go Tigers.
I also was able to attend the GROTC banquet. I just want to, as a board member, that is the highlight of what we get to do. The stuff like tonight is hard and it's important, but being invited to help celebrate the student successes and the programs that we offer, please, everybody invite us. We might not be able to attend because there's so many different successes, but please extend us an invitation. We'd love to be there to cheer you on as well. That's all I'm going to say tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I attended the banquet, done that too. It's impressive. And the thing that I kind of dwelled on the whole time, and I know a lot of people involved in that program realize that when I was in high school, I was in Catholic school, but the high school was mandatory sophomore year that you participated in the TC. I don't remember the boys and girls, I think it was just boys. Yes, but anyway,
You was, you are correct.
and I think it's worse being taught by nuns than being in an RPC, but anyway. And then the other thing, you know, you can go online. I love computers, Google, and all that junk. So you can find any kind of statistic you want out there about anything. But the statistic that I like, that I saw on the last page, of course, 11 times, and I had my 3-year-old or third grade grandson counted. There's 573 kids in the academic honor. So the thing about our elementary, I mean, my feeling on this whole thing, I'm not talking about this, but when we got in that pandemic stage, and people were home, I think they absorbed the mentality of, oh, it's okay, just do it. And I think that's part of our absenteeism. But the fact that we're struggling, maybe that we're struggling all over the country, this is not just our problem, it's the whole country's problem. And it's sad, true, but we just gotta keep on trucking. Like I say, at the end result, half of our kids in high school on the honor roll, I think we're doing something right. Okay? And with that, I think I will.